At the remarriage ceremony, the ex-husband brought the child and tried to crash the wedding, seeking reconciliation. It turns out that a woman who marries someone else will not have a good ending. She gave everything for Qin Mingzhou, but she didn't expect that he would frame her and end up in prison. After being released from prison, she regained her dream and lived for herself, but she didn't expect that he still didn't let her go. When her love was completely burned out and she was ready to marry another man, he suddenly realized. Yaoyao, even if I imprison you for a lifetime, I will never let you marry another man. Don't give up on me, please. Chapter 1, Abort the Child in Her Womb. Yaoyao's body trembled as she backed away step by step, her eyes filled with disbelief, as her husband, Qin Mingzhou, drew closer. This was the first time since their marriage that she wanted to distance herself from him. Mingzhou, I'm carrying your child, and you want to abort him? Have you gone mad? The man approaching her had a chiseled and handsome face, with deep-set features, a tall and slender figure, broad shoulders, and a narrow waist. His appearance was perfect in every way, especially that face, which had captivated countless men and women alike. The reason Yaoyao fell head over heels for Qin Mingzhou years ago was because of his flawless, enchanting face. At this moment, Qin Mingzhou's usually deep, starry eyes were now filled with bloodshot anger, his entire being radiating coldness. 2 years ago, you had someone rape and murder my Shin. Now you want to do the same to my Na. Yaoyao, you're a vicious woman, and you don't deserve to bear my child. What? Yaoyao was utterly confused. She turned her head to look at Lin My Na, who was crying and appeared fragile, and finally understood why Qin Mingzhou was so furious today. A few years ago, she was deeply in love with Qin Mingzhou. But the woman Qin Mingzhou loved was Lin My Na's twin sister, Lin Maishin. Because Lin Maishin was suffering from lymphoma and needed a bone marrow transplant, Yaoyao was the only one whose marrow matched. Qin Mingzhou agreed to marry her to save the woman he loved. However, a year after their marriage, Lin Maishin was raped and murdered. The killer was never found. Now, Lin My Na was going through the exact same ordeal as her sister. The difference was, Qin Mingzhou had arrived in time to save Lin My Na and was convinced that she had orchestrated it all. The injustice and helplessness of being wronged by the one she loved filled Yaoyau's heart, and her eyes began to sting with tears. Mingzhou, we've known each other for 7 years, and we've shared a bed for 3. I thought that even if you didn't love me, you would at least understand me a little. How could I ever do such a heartless thing? Qin Mingzhou was beyond furious, the veins on his handsome face bulging as he gritted his teeth. The kidnappers have already confessed, and you still want to deny it. Lin My Na bit her lip, her eyes reddened as she softly scolded Yaoyao. Miss Shi, I know you've always hated my sister and me. You must have wanted us to disappear in front of you and Mingzhou, but we're both women too. How could you do something so cruel and malicious to me and my sister? Lin My Na also had feelings for Qin Mingzhou, and once, she even stabbed herself to frame Yaoyao, causing their already fragile marriage to hit rock bottom. Clearly, this was another of Lin My Na's schemes to frame her. Yaoyau's lips trembled with anger. Lin My Na, don't try to frame me. You've always wanted me and Mingzhou to divorce so you could take my place as Mrs. Qin. This must be your own show. I may have been jealous of Lin Maishin, but so were you. You're so treacherous and vicious. Maybe it was you who hired someone to kill her back then. Slap. Before Yaoyao could finish her sentence, she was suddenly slapped across the face. Her face burned with pain, and her ears rang for a moment. Before she could react, Lin My Na, who had slapped her, looked as if she had suffered a great injustice. With tears in her eyes, she acted pitiful. You're going too far. It was clearly you. You knew Mingzhou loved my sister, so you had her killed. Now, seeing how close Mingzhou and I are, you want to do the same to me. Lin My Na, tears streaming down her face, threw herself into Qin Mingzhou's arms. Woo Mingzhou, you must get justice for me and my sister. Qin Mingzhou gently patted her back, whispering softly with pity, all right, don't cry. I will never let anyone who harmed you or Maishin go. A wave of bitterness rose in Yaoyau's throat, and tears immediately filled her eyes. Qin Mingzhou, so you never trusted me. You never saw me as your wife. You've always hated me. When Qin Mingzhou saw her tears and pain, a strange look flickered in his deep eyes, but it was quickly covered by a layer of frost. 2 years ago, you killed Maishin. With your father, Shi Mingyi, protecting you, you escaped legal punishment. Now, the Shi group is bankrupt, and Shi Mingyi has committed suicide. Xiao, this time, no one will protect you. It's time for you to pay for what you've done. Qin Mingzhou took out a bottle of pills he had prepared earlier and handed it to Xiao, his eyes cold and sinister. Will you take it yourself, or do you want me to feed it to you? Xiao's face drained of color as a chill crept from her heart, filling her entire body. What is this? Abortion pills. Xiao's face turned pale in an instant. No, I won't take it. This is not just your child, it's mine too. You have no right to decide his fate. Since you won't take it, then I'll feed it to you. Qin Mingzhou's face remained cold as he took a step toward her. Xiao panicked and tried to escape. Her movements were quick, but Qin Mingzhou was quicker. He grabbed her slender arm, yanking it hard and pressing her upper body onto the table. Her small frame was no match for his strength. Xiao was completely terrified, struggling desperately. Let go of me, Qin Mingzhou. This is your flesh and blood too. Let go. As long as I want, there are plenty of women who can bear my child, but it will never be you. Open your mouth and take the medicine. Qin Mingzhou's eyes were cold and cruel, one hand gripping her chin, forcing her mouth open. The other hand poured the pills into her mouth, and after the pills were all in, he grabbed a glass of water nearby and forced it down her throat. Don't, let me go, Qin Mingzhou, don't force me to hate you millimeter cough, cough. Xiao was terrified, struggling with all her might, but it was no use. She was pinned down with no way to escape. Despair spread through her heart. Help! Someone, save my child. Behind her, Lin Mai smiled smugly, watching the scene unfold. Qin Mingzhou didn't let go of her until he was sure Xiao had swallowed the pills. Xiao immediately started gagging, trying to make herself throw up the pills. Her delicate throat was scratched by her own nails, and blood began to flow from the corners of her mouth. It was a horrific sight. Oh! Xiao seemed numb to the pain, continuing to claw at her throat. The next second, Qin Mingzhou's hand tightly gripped her chin. His eyes were as cold as ice. Stop doing useless things. These abortion pills dissolve instantly. I had them specially made for you. Even if you tear your throat apart, it's useless. Xiao felt as though her heart had been ripped out of her chest. The pain. It was unbearable. 7 years of love and sacrifice had resulted in this. Xiao cried out, as if she had lost her mind. Somehow, she mustered enough strength to push Qin Mingzhou away. The face that she had once loved so deeply now seemed repulsive. You bastard! Xiao raised her hand, intending to slap Qin Mingzhou across the face. But before her hand could land, he grabbed her arm tightly. His gaze was as cruel as ever. No matter how much you struggle, it won't work. I will never let a woman like you bear my child. Chapter 2, Sent to Prison by Him. Xiao felt like she was dying, her pain resembling the final cry of a dying creature. Even if I'm guilty, even if I've done wrong, the child in my belly is innocent. It's your flesh and blood, how can you do this? How could you be so cruel? Qin Mingzhou, I hate you. I will never forgive you. I was wrong. I loved you wrongly. If I could start over, I would never have met you. Tears streamed down her face as her eyes brimmed with resentment. Every word seemed to bleed. Qin Mingzhou's handsome face flickered with a momentary change. A hint of suppressed fear and pain appeared in his eyes. Could it be? Had he really made a mistake? Outside the window, the sound of a police siren grew louder. Qin Mingzhou quickly regained his composure, his eyes turning cold and ruthless again. I've already called the police. The evidence of your plotting against Maynard is undeniable. You're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, Xiao. Everyone must pay the price for their actions. The abortion pill began to take effect. Xiao felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. Clutching her stomach, she sweated profusely, too weak to cry or curse Qin Mingzhou anymore. Just as Xiao felt like she couldn't stand the pain any longer, 2 police officers entered and walked toward her. One officer held up a document. Xiao, this is the arrest warrant issued by the government. You are suspected of hiring someone to rape and murder Lin Maishan, as well as attempting to do the same to Lin Maynard. You are under arrest according to the law. The other officer quickly handcuffed her hands with cold steel cuffs. 6 years later. At the main gate of the imperial capital prison, Xiao stood beside the prison guard. The gatekeeper checked the release documents handed over by the guard and confirmed her identity before opening the gate to release her. The prison guard reminded her, 0528, you're still young. After you get out, make sure to live a good life and stay away from crime. Whether you believe it or not, I've never committed a crime, Xiao replied expressionlessly, then stepped out into the warm sunlight, leaving behind the place that had stolen 6 years of her youth. She had already lost her baby fat. Her pale face, the size of a palm, lacked any color, though her features remained delicate and beautiful. Her tall, slender frame looked fragile, as if the wind could blow her away. Yet her steps were exceptionally firm. Her best friend, Cheng Yuwei, immediately recognized her. Yaoyao. She walked quickly over and hugged Xiao before letting go, her bright face breaking into a joyful smile. Yaoyao, congratulations on your new beginning. I had a fortune teller read your future. He said your life ahead will be smooth and prosperous. Let us hope so, Xiao replied, then asked, how is Xiao Yi? Didn't he come with you? Lin Auntie is at home preparing a welcome dinner for you, and Xiao Yi had an exam today, so he couldn't take time off. Can we go to his school now? Thinking of her son, a bittersweet feeling spread through Xiao's heart. She was eager to see him. Cheng Yuwei laughed and hooked her arm through Xiao's slender one. I know you miss your son. It'll be just in time to pick him up. The school is not far from here. Xiao got into the car parked by Cheng Yuwei nearby. The red Chevrolet quickly sped away. Cheng Yuwei, being a smart person, didn't ask any other questions. She kept talking about Xiao Yi, and Xiao listened attentively. During the visits to the prison, their time was always limited, so Xiao never heard much about Xiao Yi's daily life. An hour and a half later, they arrived at the destination. It was just the time for school to let out, and the school gate was crowded with parents picking up their children, the scene as lively as a market. This ordinary, daily scene felt very unfamiliar to Xiao now. She began to tighten her hands resting on her lap. Cheng Yuwei noticed her tension and, with concern, said, Yaoyao, there are too many people here. You stay in the car, I'll go pick up Xiao Yi. No need, I'll go with you. This was a normal life, one she had to learn to adapt to again. Xiao Yi had not yet come out, and Xiao and Cheng Yuwei stood in the crowd, their gazes fixed on the school gate, just like all the other parents. Children were continually emerging from the gate, greeted by their parents. A little girl, looking about for a 5 years old, caught everyone's attention as she was extraordinarily pretty, almost like a doll. Her beauty stood out as soon as she appeared. Xiao couldn't help but look at her a few more times. The little girl's eyes met Xiao's, and she paused for a moment before slowly walking toward her. She stood in front of Xiao, staring intently at her, tilting her little head. Cheng Yuwei noticed the little girl too, bending down with a smile. Little girl, is there something you need? The little girl didn't answer Cheng Yuwei. Instead, her small, pale hand reached out to grasp two of Xiao's fingers. Mommy, you really are mommy. The childish voice made Xiao's body tremble, a feeling she couldn't describe flooding her heart. She froze, stunned. Before she could react, a woman rushed over and picked up the little girl, her voice full of fear. Young miss, you really scared me. The little girl obediently rested her head on the woman's shoulder, her expression still impassive, but her bright eyes never left Xiao. The woman turned to Xiao and Cheng Yuwei, asking, has my young miss caused you any trouble? Cheng Yuwei noticed Xiao was still staring at the little girl, so she quickly responded, no, no. She must have mistaken her mother. The woman looked a little strange but didn't say much and quickly walked away with the little girl. As they left, Xiao clearly heard the little girl call out to her once more, Mommy. Snap out of it, Cheng Yuwei patted Xiao's shoulder, snapping her back to reality. Xiao withdrew her gaze from the little girl. Some people say that children can't see the faces of adults when they are short, so they often recognize people by their clothes. There are many cases of kids mistaking their parents. But I have to say, that little girl's eyes really do look a lot like yours. Her eyes do resemble mine, Xiao couldn't deny it. On the other side of the school gate, the woman had placed the little girl into the backseat of a Bentley. Mr. Qin, I asked the teacher. Nothing special happened with the young miss today. She only spoke 16 words all day. The man sitting in the backseat of the Bentley was extraordinarily handsome, with a cold demeanor. He responded with a simple, emotionless millimeter. Chapter 3: A Fiery Reunion. The aunt respectfully closed the car door and got into another vehicle with the bodyguards. Qin Mingzhou gently placed the little girl sitting beside him onto his long legs, then said to the driver, "Take us home." "Yes, Mr. Qin." The driver carefully maneuvered the car through the crowd and slowly began to move forward. Qin Mingzhou looked at the little girl sitting on his lap, and his usually cold, piercing eyes softened a little. "Mian Mian, tell daddy, did anything fun or interesting happen at school today?" Qin Mian Mian has autism and usually doesn't he express much emotion or speak much. Doctors advised her parents to talk to her more to help develop her emotions, which made the usually quiet and aloof Qin Mingzhou have to communicate with her more. Qin Mingzhou had assumed that, as usual, he would get no response from his daughter. However, to his surprise, Qin Mian Mian broke her usual silence. "Daddy, I saw mommy." After hearing her response, Qin Mingzhou's eyes lit up in surprise, and his expression quickly relaxed. "Mian Mian, mommy has gone to a very far place. She will only come back when you grow up healthy and safe. Anyone who says they are mommy, you cannot trust them, and you must not follow them." Qin Mian Mian, with her soft, innocent voice, firmly replied, "I didn't make a mistake, she is really mommy." It was rare for Mian Mian to respond twice in a row. Just as Qin Mingzhou was about to continue encouraging her to talk more, his gaze unconsciously fell on a figure in the crowd through the car window, and his face instantly changed. He almost growled, "Stop the car." The school gate was crowded, and the car was already moving slowly. The driver quickly stopped the car. Qin Mingzhou hurriedly rolled down the window and fixed his gaze on the slender figure in the crowd. "Is that Yaoyao? How is that possible?" "Mian Mian, daddy has something to do. Wait here." Qin Mingzhou put Mian Mian back in her seat and told the driver to watch her, then quickly got out of the car. Xiao, who was waiting for Xiao Yi with Cheng Yuwei, was suddenly grabbed from behind and turned around. She immediately saw the face that had haunted her nightmares for the past 6 years. "Xiao, it's really you." After the initial shock, the man's face darkened with an overwhelming coldness, his sharp gaze piercing Xiao like a blade. "You were sentenced to 9 years. You should be in prison. Why are you here?" The man in front of her was wearing a tailored deep blue suit. His tall, slender figure was outlined perfectly, and his exquisite, perfect features were even sharper and more defined than 6 years ago. His aristocratic, cold aura attracted countless astonished looks from people around him. Xiao hadn't expected to run into Qin Mingzhou on her first day out of prison. After the initial shock, hatred surged up in her heart, and her delicate face became as cold as ice. She forcefully shook off the man's hand on her shoulder, a smile curling on her pale, jade-like face. "Qin Mingzhou, you must have hoped I rotted in prison, but your wish is in vain. I've been released." "Impossible." Qin Mingzhou didn't believe it. Everything was supposed to be under his control. There was no way there could be such a big deviation. Then there was only one possibility. The man gritted his teeth and said, "You actually escaped from prison." Xiao sneered. "Qin Mingzhou, 6 years without seeing you, I didn't expect your IQ to have degraded this much." Qin Mingzhou's face turned an even darker shade. Cheng Yuwei, Xiao's only best friend and also Qin Mingzhou's junior, was very familiar with the enmity between the two. She knew exactly how Qin Mingzhou had hurt Xiao. She stepped forward, shielding Xiao behind her. "Qin Mingzhou, you dog, stay away from our Yao." Qin Mingzhou, who had never been insulted like this, looked as though he could murder her with his eyes. "If you don't want to die, get lost." Cheng Yuwei, slightly shorter than Qin Mingzhou, tilted her head back to match his gaze. "Just because I insulted you, you're angry. With what you've done to our Yao, calling you a beast is still too mild." Xiao didn't want Cheng Yuwei to get involved because of her, so she quickly stepped out from behind her friend. "Yuwei, this is my business. Let me handle it." "But don't worry, he wouldn't dare do anything to me in public." Cheng Yuwei gave Qin Mingzhou a fierce glare before stepping back a couple of paces. Xiao looked coldly at Qin Mingzhou. "Believe it or not, I've been released. Qin Mingzhou, you made me spend 6 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit. I won't let you off easily." She had rotted away in prison day after day, while the man who framed her became even more handsome and dazzling with time. How ironic. Qin Mingzhou was seething with anger, his voice icy and filled with menace. Your 6 years are nothing compared to my Shin's life. You were sentenced to 9 years, and not a single day should be reduced. Since you're out of prison, I'll make sure you serve the remaining 3 years. His cold, threatening voice carried an ominous, dangerous aura. No sooner had he finished speaking than he seized Yaoyao's slender wrist and dragged her away. Yaoyao didn't expect him to act so boldly in public. Her face flushed with anger. Qin Mingzhou, you bastard, let go of me. People around them were watching, and some had already started whispering. But because of Qin Mingzhou's imposing presence, no one dared step forward to stop him. Except Cheng Yue. Let go of our Yao. Just as Cheng Yue tried to approach, the next moment, she saw Qin Mingzhou bend down, groaning in pain, his hand releasing Yaoyao as his face turned pale. Yaoyao, you dare. I was only defending myself when you made the first move. Yaoyao had kicked Qin Mingzhou's knee with all her strength. The kick landed on the man's most vulnerable area. Qin Mingzhou grimaced, a layer of cold sweat forming on his forehead, and his voice was filled with venom. Yaoyao, you're seeking death. How dare she do this to him? Yaoyao was about to retaliate, but from the corner of her eye, she saw Xiao Yi, carrying his small blue school bag, walking out of the school gate. Her heart skipped a beat. She absolutely could not let Qin Mingzhou encounter Xiao Yi, nor could she let him know of Xiao Yi's existence. Let us go. Yaoyao quickly grabbed Cheng Yue and started running. What's wrong? Cheng Yue, not yet fully understanding, instinctively followed. Yaoyao whispered the name Xiao Yi to her. Cheng Yue's quick mind immediately understood the situation. They were at Xiao Yi's school gate. If he came out and ran into Qin Mingzhou, it would be a disaster. They quickly ran away. After they reached a street not far from the school, they stopped to catch their breath. Cheng Yue glanced behind them. That dog Qin Mingzhou didn't follow us. But from the way he looked, he won't be able to catch up. You should be kicked harder, so he can't function properly. Yaoyao was more practical. If I did that, I'd end up back in prison. No rush, I'll settle the score with Qin Mingzhou later. Right now, the most important thing is Xiao Yi. Call him, ask him to wait at school, and we'll pick him up later. Okay. After the pain subsided, Qin Mingzhou finally straightened up. He glared at the direction where Yaoyao had disappeared and, his face dark and grim, dialed a number on his phone. Yaoyao's out of prison. What happened? Chapter 4. Did you sleep with him? I was just about to call you and tell you about this. A charming young man's voice came from the other end of the phone. Qin Mingzhou irritably pulled his tightly tied tie open, revealing a clearly visible collarbone, and asked, "What's the reason?" The young man replied, Yaoyao behaved well in prison, so her sentence could have been reduced. If we hadn't found someone to block her, her sentence could have been reduced by almost 3 years. Now someone has found a stronger connection than us, and secretly implemented the reduced sentence without telling us. The procedures were also completed as quickly as possible, and she was released today. Qin Mingzhou's face suddenly became very ugly. The Shi family fell, and when the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. No one came out to help her back then, so where would anyone come from now? I'm checking. The person who was able to get past me let him go. It seems that he is not a simple person. Qin Mingzhou pinched his brows, and a rare hint of anxiety appeared in his bottomless black eyes. It's not the right time yet. We need to send her back to jail. Qin, it's not that I don't want to help you, it's just that Yaoyao was released from prison legally. Unless she breaks the law again, the police won't arrest her. Yaoyao and Cheng Mingwei confirmed that Qin Mingzhou had left before returning to the school gate to pick up Xiaoyi. The other children had already left. Xiaoyi was sitting in front of the security booth with his school bag on his back, his head in his hands, waiting obediently for someone to pick him up. As soon as the little guy saw Yaoyao and Cheng Mingwei appear, his big eyes suddenly lit up. Godmother, you're here, mommy. Cheng Mingwei didn't mention that Yaoyao was there during the phone call just now. The little guy couldn't believe it. He rubbed his big black grape-like eyes and stared at Yaoyao again. Xiaoyi, it's me, your mother. Yaoyao strode towards the little person she had been thinking about day and night. After confirming that Yaoyao in front of him was not an illusion but a real person, the little guy immediately smiled brightly and ran towards Xiao. "Mommy, mommy, mommy." Xiao half squatted down, hugged her son who rushed over, and cried with joy, "Xiao Yi, my dear baby." There was no physical contact allowed during the monthly visits, and after 5 years, the mother and son were finally able to hug each other in person. "Mommy, it's great that you finally came out of that big grey house." The little girl wrapped her pink arms tightly around Xiao's slender neck, and her big eyes smiled into a cute half-moon shape. Xiao's eyes were sore and she felt mixed emotions. She kissed the little guy's rosy face and finally a smile appeared on her face. "Xiaoyi, mommy is free now. I can stay with you from now on." Xiao happily took her son's hand and got into Cheng Yuwei's car to go back to Jinyu community. While driving, Cheng Yuwei didn't know what she was thinking about, and suddenly slapped her head. "Oh, I almost forgot the most important thing." Xiao was sitting in the back seat holding her son and playing. Seeing her like this, she asked in surprise, "What's wrong?" Cheng Yuwei stopped the car and turned around when they encountered a traffic light. She was delighted and said, "Didn't you win the LMH fashion designer competition last week? The person in charge of the big brand Leo really appreciated your work and offered you an olive branch. He said he would let you go to Leo next Monday to register for employment." "Really?" Xiao couldn't believe it. Cheng Yuwei said happily, "Pearl couldn't be more true. President Leo's assistant called me this morning. I have already promised you that you must arrive at Leo on time on Monday." "That's great." Xiao was surprised and her eyes were sore. She majored in fashion design and was extremely talented. She had won many design awards in college and was admitted to the world's top design school as an exception. Unfortunately, she did not go in order to stay with Qin Mingzhou. After marriage, she gave up her dream of becoming an outstanding designer and became a housewife. Their family had gone bankrupt. After divorcing Qin Mingzhou, she fought for some property and used it all to pay off her father's debts. After giving birth to Xiaoyi in prison, she was penniless and had been making plans for her life after being released from prison. She picked up her pen again to design things, and Cheng Yuwei helped her submit them for publication to make money. At the same time, he also took part in some designer competitions, hoping to gild himself so that it would be easier to find a job after he was released from prison. She just won the LMH designer competition last week, which is a competition that is highly recognized in the industry. Cheng Yuwei was also genuinely happy for Xiao. Before you were in prison, you already had a certain reputation in the design world. Now you have won an international designer award. Not only have you been released from prison, but you have also been hired by a big brand. Yaoyao, you can finally realize your dream." Xiao sighed, "Yes, people really can't give up their dreams because of anyone. Thinking about the past me, I was really stupid." When we returned to Jinyuan community, Aunt Lin had already happily prepared dinner and was waiting for us. Cheng Yuwei left only after dinner. Xiaoyi always sticks to Xiao, and Xiao dotes on him so much that at night the little guy doesn't go back to his own room to sleep, but sleeps with Xiao. Xiao read fairy tales to him. Although the clever little guy thought the stories were too childish, he still listened with great interest because it was his mommy who read them, and he fell asleep. The next day was Friday, and Xiao stayed awake all night. After forcing himself to be energetic and sending Xiaoyi to school with Aunt Lin, the two went shopping at a nearby mall. Xiao planned to buy everything she needed today, then spend 2 days with Xiaoyi over the weekend, and then go to Leo on Monday to complete the startup procedures. What she never expected was that she was kidnapped in the corridor on their way to the bathroom. Someone was behind Xiao, covering her mouth and nose tightly with a handkerchief with a strong smell of medicine, and knocked her unconscious. When Xiao woke up, her head felt a little dizzy and her body felt a little weak. When I regained consciousness, I found myself lying on the bed. The handsome man sitting beside the bed was crossing his legs. He had a cold temperament and his dark, narrow, cold eyes were staring at her without blinking. Xiao sat up suddenly, her innocent little face turned cold, and she gritted her teeth and said, "It turned out to be you." Qin Mingzhou's expression was even colder than hers, and there was a sense of hostility all over his body. "Xiao, you are really capable. You were able to hook up with Feng Xiao of the Dean Group while in prison. He used a lot of connections to get you out of prison early. Tell me, when did you hook up with him?" "None of your business." Xiao really didn't expect that Qin Mingzhou would dare to kidnap her in broad daylight. She was angry and a little uneasy. Qin Mingzhou's sinister eyes revealed a bit of anger. He stood up, bent down, and pinched Xiao's thin chin. A person like Feng Xiao who only cares about profit will not help you get out of prison for no reason. Did you sleep with him? Chapter 5. His skills are much better than yours. Xiao has nothing. The only thing she has is her curvy figure and a beautiful face. The only thing she can trade with Feng Xiao is her body. It's no surprise that Qin Mingzhou would have such doubts. Xiao turned her cheek and moved her chin away from the man's slender fingers, then tilted her head slightly and faced the man with a cold face. So what if it is, so what if it isn't? Qin Mingzhou, I want to ask you, what qualifications do you have to question me now? The man stared at her coldly, insisting on the question, yes or no. Although the person Qin Mingzhou loves in his heart is Yi Meishan, Xiao knows that Qin Mingzhou likes her body very much. This can be seen from the frequent sexual life of couples after marriage. So, Qin Mingzhou is now angry that a body that he has only slept with and that he likes very much may also have been slept with by other men. Har har, men's ridiculous possessiveness. Xiao met the man's beautiful eyes, smiled, and began to talk nonsense against her will. Yes, I slept with Feng Xiao. He is much better than you in terms of body shape, physical strength, bed skills, and length. Qin Mingzhou's face darkened instantly, and a terrifying storm that could sweep away everything appeared in his eyes. He squeezed out every word from between his teeth. Xiao, you really pissed me off. Qin Mingzhou took off his custom-made suit jacket and then tore off his tie. He stared at Xiao with a hint of scarlet in his eyes, as ferocious as a beast staring at its prey that was about to be devoured. Xiao felt a little panic in her heart and subconsciously retreated to the other side of the bed. What you up to? Since you said so, how can I not prove myself? Xiao shuddered and subconsciously got up and ran away. Qin Mingzhou grabbed her slender wrist and threw her back onto the bed. Then he pressed his tall and muscular body on her and began to tear off her clothes. Xiao was panic-stricken and struggled continuously. Qin Mingzhou, you are crazy, stop now. Aren't you sexually unsatisfied and looking for a man as soon as you get out of prison? Since you are so hungry, I will come and satisfy you. Qin Mingzhou's eyes became hot when they touched her half-naked body, and his movements became more and more rough and urgent. Qin Mingzhou, do you know what you are doing? You are raping a woman, you bastard, let me go, Qin Mingzhou clasped Xiao's hands on top of her head with one hand and kissed her chattering little mouth directly. As soon as he touched her body, Qin Mingzhou began to lose control. The kiss became deeper and deeper, and desire came over him like a tidal wave. Only then did he realize that he missed and longed for her body so much. Xiao's mouth was completely blocked, and all she could breathe was the familiar scent of a man, as refreshing as cedar. Xiao's eyes were red and she was furious. The hand that was pinned above the man's head finally broke free. With a pop sound. After 6 years, the long-awaited slap finally hit the man in the face. You bastard, get out of here, stay away from me. Xiao roared with red eyes and sobs. After what he had done to her, how could he have the nerve to treat her like this again? Qin Mingzhou's handsome face was covered with finger marks, and he looked as cold as if he was about to tear Xiao apart. After seeing the disgust and hatred towards him in Xiao's eyes, he sobered up a lot, did not continue, and let her go. Xiao regained her freedom and tried to escape again, but was unfortunately caught by Qin Mingzhou again. This time he tied Xiao directly to the bed. The difference in strength between the two was too great, and even if Xiao tried her best to resist, it was useless. She was furious. Let me go, Qin Mingzhou, are you crazy? This is a society ruled by law, you are breaking the law. You have a good sense of the law. It seems that your 6 years in prison were not in vain. Unfortunately, it's not enough. Qin Mingzhou tied the person to the bed and without touching Xiao again, he stood up and returned to his dignified and noble appearance, but the scarlet in his eyes did not diminish in the slightest. Qin Mingzhou, what on earth do you want to do? Xiao asked angrily, struggling and trying to break free from the restraints that bound her. I told you that you have been sentenced to 9 years, so you can't lose a single day. Since you won't stay in prison, I will do the work for you. This is a private mental hospital with great privacy, so you should stay here and atone for your sins. Xiao was so angry that she almost exploded. Qin Mingzhou, I never owe you anything, and I have never done anything wrong to you. Why won't you let me go? You have already put me in jail for 6 years, and now you treat me like this. What's your right, you bastard? You owe Meishan a life. Qin Mingzhou's tone was fierce. Yaoyao's beautiful eyes turned red. She didn't do anything wrong to anyone, she just fell in love with the wrong person when she was young. Why should I be punished like this? Qin Mingzhou suddenly stepped forward and grabbed Yaoyao's slender neck with one hand, saying coldly, I really want to kill you directly. Come on, if you have the guts, just strangle me to death. The man's grip was so strong that Yaoyao could hardly breathe. Her little face turned red, and there was a hint of stubbornness that refused to admit defeat in her eyes. Qin Mingzhou stared at Yaoyao with his scarlet eyes. Seeing her facial blood vessels dilate and the area around her mouth turn blue due to lack of oxygen, I felt a sense of relief. At the last moment, he let her go. Cough cough. After her breathing became smoother, Yaoyao greedily breathed in big gulps of fresh air. Her slender white neck was pinched until it turned red. Qin Mingzhou looked down at him and said in a stern voice, even if Feng Xiao has great abilities, he can't find this place. Don't even think about seeing anyone again. Qin Mingzhou left and the thick door was slammed shut. After Yaoyao caught her breath, she struggled and shouted for help. Help, is there anyone outside? Save me. No one responded to her. Her helpless voice echoed in the empty room. Shenyang Group, conference room. After all the designers of the Leo brand, big and small, presented their designs one by one, everyone's eyes turned to the man sitting in the main seat. The man was wearing a tight-fitting silver-gray suit. He was about 1.9 meters tall, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist. His legs were straight and slender. He also had a handsome face that could be seen from all angles. He was so perfect that he didn't seem like a mortal. That's all. Qin Mingzhou's voice was very magnetic and at the same time a little low and cold. This good voice was a perfect match with his perfect appearance. Mr. Qin, all the design drafts have been displayed. Leo's chief designer lowered his head slightly, not daring to look directly at the talented and handsome young president. Qin Mingzhou's eyes became even colder, and there was a sense of oppression mixed in with the icy breath. Everyone held their breath. Except for the second and sixth works, all others will be taken back for redoing. If their works are still not up to standard, the designers will be fired. After the meeting, Qin Mingzhou returned to his office feeling cold. Lin Cheng knew from the tightness of his lips that he was in a very bad mood, and carefully placed the documents on his desk. Boss Qin, this is the monthly sales report for the Leo Triangle Bay Area that you requested last time. Qin Mingzhou ignored the report, glanced at his watch, and asked, hasn't the designer who won the LMH championship come yet? Chapter 6 His fiancée. Lin Cheng replied respectfully, not yet. I made an appointment with her for today, but I didn't say whether it would be in the morning or afternoon. She should be here in the afternoon. What I want is not maybe, or should, but to be sure and contact her again. Qin Mingzhou's tone became heavier, which made him feel even worse. Lin Cheng quickly replied, okay. Lin Cheng did not leave immediately. After hesitating for a moment, he asked, Boss Qin, although Melinda won the LMH championship, she has only been in the industry for 2 or 3 years. There are still many talented and famous designers who want to join Leo. Are you really not going to consider other designers? Qin Mingzhou opened a computer page, which was full of clothes designed by Melinda. Leo, once the most popular luxury brand, has been losing money for 4 consecutive quarters. Its biggest problem is design. Designers are the soul of the entire work and the guarantee of brand sales. Melinda's work has her own unique style and will definitely be very popular. Melinda must be a genius to be praised so highly by President Qin, who is regarded as a legend in the business world. Li Cheng immediately took a new look at this designer whom he had never met. Boss Qin, I'm going to contact Melinda right now. No matter what the cost, I'm going to get her to the company. Yeah. Qin Mingzhou picked up the report and looked at it. Li Cheng left Qin Mingzhou's office. Qin Mingzhou had just finished reading the report in his hand when Li Cheng knocked on the door again, looking a little anxious. Boss Qin, the hospital just called and said Miss She escaped. Yaoyao was imprisoned in a windowless room. There is a toilet in the room, and someone would bring in meals through a small window in the door 3 times a day. Her only range of activities was between the room and the toilet, which was even worse than being in prison. There was a camera in the room, and someone was monitoring her through the camera. Judging from Qin Mingzhou's behavior, he didn't really intend to kill her. So Yaoyao took a gamble. She walked into a bathroom without surveillance, cut her finger, and held a mouthful of blood in her mouth. After returning to the bed, she hugged her stomach and pretended to be in great pain, and finally spat out the blood in her mouth. In less than 10 minutes, someone hurriedly opened the door and came in to check on her. Because she vomited blood and looked very seriously ill, the people who came took her out of the room and wanted to send her to the emergency room. Xiao took this opportunity to escape. Don't let her run away, catch her. Xiao entered the elevator as quickly as possible. The elevator door closed just a second before her captor rushed in. Xiao came to the first floor and the people who wanted to catch her were still chasing her. The mental hospital was heavily guarded, and every exit would be checked for people and vehicles entering and leaving. Xiao finally managed to escape from the hospital by hiding in the trunk of a car. After being freed, he borrowed a young girl's cell phone and called Cheng Yue, claiming that he was robbed. Yue, I'm fine. I'll tell you in detail what happened in the past few days. I'm at Guardian Plaza now. Today is Monday. I have to go to Leo to handle the entry procedures. Please come and pick me up. By the way, we are about the same size. Please bring your own clothes for me to change into. Thank you. Half an hour later, Cheng Yue hurried over. She obviously didn't get enough rest these days and looked very tired. Yaoyao, you scared me to death. Where have you been these days? Only after seeing Cheng Yue, whom she trusted the most, did Xiao finally relax and tell her everything that had happened in the past few days. Cheng Yue was so angry. That bastard Qin Mingzhou is really too much. He actually dared to kidnap and imprison you. You have been missing for so long, Aunt Lin and I have already called the police. Let's go to the police station and tell them everything that bastard Qin Mingzhou did to you. Let him have a taste of what it feels like to be in jail. Qin Mingzhou never reveals anything when he does things. If he dares to do something, he won't leave any evidence. There's no point in calling the police. The most important thing for me now is to keep Leo's job. Yue, did you bring the clothes you were asked to bring? Yes, I took my most expensive and best-looking set. Xiao went to the Guardian Mall and changed into Cheng Yue's clothes. Except for the tightness around the chest, everything else was fine. Cheng Yue, a little-known makeup artist, helped her put on her makeup as quickly as possible, and then drove her to the Leo office building. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and time was running out. Xiao hurriedly got out of the car and walked into the lobby of the building, and came to the front desk. Hello, I'm looking for your President Qin. Seeing that Xiao was well dressed and pretty, the receptionist did not dare to neglect her and asked politely, Miss, who are you? My name is Melinda. I'm a fashion designer. I have an appointment with Mr. Qin today. After the front desk found the appointment information, they took Xiao directly to the general manager's office. President Qin's secretary received Xiao, took her to the VIP room, and made her a cup of coffee. Ms. Mai, President Qin is in a meeting. Please have a cup of coffee here and wait. Okay, thank you. The secretary went out to do something. Xiao was halfway through drinking her coffee when a young and beautiful woman came into the VIP room. Who are you and what are you doing here? The woman was dressed in designer clothes and had an arrogant demeanor. She raised her eyebrows and looked at Xiao with disdain. Xiao was somewhat displeased with the woman's attitude. Thinking that the woman might be Leo's employee or even a small leader, she answered honestly, I'm here to see President Qin. Qin Mingzhou kept staring at Xiao. She felt that Xiao looked familiar, as if she had seen her somewhere before, but she couldn't remember where for a moment. But whether I have seen her or not, the woman in front of me is so beautiful. With her slender waist, straight long legs, firm chest and delicate and pure face, even women can't help but look at her a few more times. Wouldn't men be even more fascinated by her? Xiao made Qin Mingzhou feel a sense of crisis, her expression became even uglier, and her words were very unpleasant. Oh, it looks like another shameless vixen trying to seduce my fiancé. Get out of here now if you know what's good for you. Don't force me to chase her away. It seems that this woman is Leo's Mr. Qin's fiancé. Such a domineering and self-centered young lady is much easier to deal with than the female prisoners in prison. Xiao smiled calmly and said slowly, Madam, your mouth really stinks. It was Mr. Qin who made the appointment with me. Even if you are Mr. Qin's fiancé, you have no right to ask me to leave. Xiao's words, as well as her calm and indifferent attitude that showed she didn't take Qin Mingzhou seriously, completely angered her. Miss Shen has always been flattered wherever she goes since she was a child. She has never been treated like this. I've seen too many bitches like you who flirt with people everywhere. I have plenty of ways to deal with you. If you don't want to be disfigured, get out of here. Chapter 7, Love-mindedness is not desirable. No matter how good-tempered Yaoyao was, it was impossible for her not to react when someone pointed at her face and insulted her. Her face darkened and she said sternly, "No matter whose fiancé you are, keep your mouth shut and don't act like you've eaten shit. You little bitch, you dare to scold me, I will kill you." Qin Mingzhou's eyes widened as she pounced on Yaoyao angrily. Yaoyao dodged. Qin Mingzhou missed his attack and couldn't stop for a moment, and fell to the ground with his arms and legs spread out. Yaoyao looked coldly at the person who had just insulted her and did not help her. "Why are you so careless?" Having lost face so much in front of her rival in love, Qin Mingzhou was furious. She stood up and slapped Yaoyao in the face without caring about the pain. With a par sound, the crisp sound of a slap and Qin Mingzhou's angry voice rang out in the room at the same time. "It's all your fault, bitch. You made me fall down. You lowly bitch." Par. Par. Two more slaps were heard, interrupting Qin Mingzhou's insults. It turned out that Yaoyao slapped Qin Mingzhou twice in the face. Qin Mingzhou's cheeks were burning with pain. She simply couldn't believe it. Her chest heaved and her eyes were as fierce as a female ghost from hell. "How dare you hit me, you lowly bitch? Do you know who I am? How dare you?" Yaoyao was calm and said in a cold voice, "I have sworn before that if anyone dares to bully me again, I will definitely repay them double. Bitch, stinky whore, I'm going to kill you. No one has ever dared to treat Miss Shen like this." Qin Mingzhou was so angry that she raised her hand to grab Yaoyao's hair. Yaoyao was prepared this time and grabbed Qin Mingzhou's hands that were waving at her. "If you can't speak, go home and learn it before you go out, so as not to embarrass yourself in public." A rich lady like Qin Mingzhou was not as strong as Yaoyao. She couldn't free her hands from Yaoyao's hands, and her eyes were red with anger. "Just wait, you bitch. I won't let you go. You're dead. What are you doing?" A magnetic male voice familiar to both of them sounded at the door. Yaoyao let go of Qin Mingzhou and looked towards the door in disbelief. Qin Mingzhou, his assistant Lin Cheng, and the secretary who received Yaoyao were standing at the door. "Why is Qin Mingzhou here?" The secretary didn't care about the subtle atmosphere and stepped forward and said, "Ms. Mai, this is Mr. Qin Mingzhou, the president of Liao. Mr. Qin, this is the designer Melinda who you have an appointment with today. Mr. Qin is actually Qin Mingzhou. Isn't he that crazy woman in front of him Qin Mingzhou's fiancé?" Qin Mingzhou didn't expect Yaoyao to be here, and a flash of surprise passed through his eyes. Qin Mingzhou ran into Qin Mingzhou's arms crying, transforming from a shrew into a weak and delicate wife in an instant. "Mingzhou, this woman hit me. Look, my face is swollen and it hurts so much. You must take care of me." Qin Mingzhou pulled Qin Mingzhou out of his arms. "Mingzhou, you go back first." Qin Mingzhou felt very aggrieved. "Mingzhou. Lin Cheng, send Miss Shen back." Qin Mingzhou interrupted Qin Mingzhou with an extremely firm tone. Seeing that Qin Mingzhou's attitude did not allow for questioning, Qin Mingzhou could only swallow her anger. She glared at Yaoyao before leaving with Lin Cheng. Qin Mingzhou's bodyguard was downstairs. Qin Mingzhou told Lin Cheng to go back and do his own thing and there was no need for him to send him off. As soon as Lin Cheng left, Qin Mingzhou's eyes flashed with poison, and she gritted her teeth and said to the bodyguard, "Help me find a designer named Melinda. I want to kill her. No, I want to make her live a life worse than death." The bodyguard was no longer surprised. "Okay, miss." As soon as Qin Mingzhou and Lin Cheng left, Yaoyao wanted to follow, but the next second she was blocked by Qin Mingzhou. "What? You still want to kidnap and imprison me?" Yaoyao sneered coldly. So many people saw her and Qin Mingzhou in the VIP room together. If something really happened to her, he would definitely be involved. Yaoyao was not worried at all that Qin Mingzhou would kidnap her here. "I didn't expect you to escape from the mental hospital and even dare to come to my territory to beat people up. Yaoyao, you are tired of living. If I had known that you were Mr. Qin from Liao, I would never have come here. Get out of the way." As soon as Yaoyao saw Qin Mingzhou, anger rose in her heart, and the hatred that had been suppressed for many years also emerged little by little. She would have to be crazy to be Qin Mingzhou's subordinate. Qin Mingzhou was wearing an expensive tailor-made suit. He was tall and had long legs, blocking the door with an air of nobility. You want to leave just because you beat up my people? His people? So the crazy woman just now was really Qin Mingzhou's fiancée. Xiao sneered. Qin Mingzhou, don't you love Lin Meishan very much? Even if she died, you would find her twin sister Lin Maynard to be her replacement and stay by her side. How come you, who is so affectionate, have another fiancé now? It seems that you care a lot whether I have a fiancé or not. Qin Mingzhou took a step forward, getting closer to Xiao, and a hint of sneer appeared in his dark eyes. It seems that you still love me. Where do you get your confidence from? Qin Mingzhou, listen carefully. The thing I regret most in my life is falling in love with you. Even if all the men in the world died, I would never fall in love with you again. Did she regret falling in love with him so much? For some reason, Qin Mingzhou felt a surge of depression in his heart, and his face became cold and gloomy again. No, Xiao loved him so deeply that he could never get rid of her. How could she not love him? The depressed feeling in my heart dissipated. He is full of confidence. Stop kidding yourself. Xiao found it very funny, so she laughed, but her watery eyes were full of sarcasm and coldness. Not to mention humans, even the most loyal dog will stay away from its master if it is beaten and hurt badly. Qin Mingzhou, you killed the baby in my belly and framed me to go to jail. You have hurt me so badly, why do you think I still love you? Xiao took a step forward, getting very close to Qin Mingzhou. Her red lips slowly curled up, and her aura was surprisingly not inferior to that of a tall man who had dominated the business world for many years. Qin Mingzhou, you'd better not give me the chance, otherwise I will definitely drag you into hell. In the past, Xiao was as obedient as a rabbit in front of Qin Mingzhou. He had never seen her so fierce and resentful. Qin Mingzhou's dark pupils tightened slightly, and soon he returned to his dignified and cold look. How did you become Melinda when you were in jail for the past 6 years, or are you an imposter? Xiao's chest heaved, and she couldn't keep her emotions stable in front of Qin Mingzhou. Qin Mingzhou, have you forgotten how I got into Tsinghua Academy of Fine Arts? Qin Mingzhou did not answer, and no one knew what he was thinking about. His icy face seemed to soften a little. Xiao has liked Qin Mingzhou since high school. After knowing that Qin Mingzhou was admitted to Tsinghua University, she rejected the special admission from the world's top design school and chose to study at Tsinghua Academy of Fine Arts. At that time, she was thinking that Tsinghua Academy of Fine Arts was inside Tsinghua University, so that meant she was in the same university as Qin Mingzhou. Now she really wants to travel back in time and slap her old self a few times. I call you love brain. Call you stupid. Chapter 8 School Bullying. Before Qin Mingzhou could say anything, his secretary walked in. Boss Qin. The secretary knew that the atmosphere was not right, but she still reported to Qin Mingzhou, Boss Qin, Director Shen is here. He is in your office now and asked you to come over immediately. Not knowing who this Mr. Shen was, Qin Mingzhou frowned slightly when he heard this. Only Xiao, who had paid close attention to his every move and was very familiar with him, knew that this was a sign of his extreme unhappiness. But soon, his expression returned to its stern look, without any sign of abnormality. Whether you are the real Melinda or not, Leo will not hire someone with a criminal record. Get out of here now. Xiao had been holding back a rage in her heart, and now she was even angrier. If I had known it was your company, I wouldn't have come even if they had invited me with a grand ceremony. Xiao came out of the Leo company building angrily, cursing Qin Mingzhou's ancestors in her heart. She called Cheng Yuwei and told her that Mr. Qin was Qin Mingzhou and he had lost his job. Cheng Yuwei was shocked, but she also supported her decision not to make a living under Qin Mingzhou's nose. I never thought that Qin Mingzhou is actually the president of Leo. I really haven't paid attention to Qin Mingzhou over the years. Yaoyao, don't worry. In addition to Leo, there are other clothing brand companies that have contacted me and said they want to hire you. I will contact them later. I just got out of jail and have a criminal record. Will this affect my job search? Qin Mingzhou mentioned this just now. Xiao was really worried that other companies would not hire her for this reason. No, you're not going to be an executive at a big company. You're just a fashion designer. It's okay as long as you have enough talent. The company's background check won't check if you have a criminal record. Besides, you won the LMH championship. You won't have trouble finding a job as a designer. Xiao had never worked and had spent 6 years in prison, so she didn't know much about workplace matters. But after hearing what Cheng Yuwei said, she felt relieved. After ending the call, she was about to call a taxi back to Jinyu when her cell phone rang again. It was from an unfamiliar number. Xiao's number had just been activated a few days ago, and she didn't know who was calling. She answered, "Hello." "Hello, are you Xi's mother?" A woman's voice came from the other end of the phone. "Yes, I am." "Who are you?" "I'm Xi's teacher. Xi had a fight with someone. Can you please come to school now?" Half an hour later, when Xiao rushed to the teacher's office, the teacher was comforting several parents. "Everyone, don't worry. I have already contacted Xi's parents. Although Xi has excellent grades, our school will definitely not favor him." Several parents were furious and refused to listen to any advice. They demanded compensation and wanted Xiaoyi to be expelled. Xiaoyi immediately noticed Xiao at the door and called out guiltily, "Mommy, you're here." Xiao strode towards her son and squatted down to check if the little guy was injured. "Xiaoyi, are you okay?" "Mommy, I'm fine." Xiao finally felt relieved after confirming that he was not injured. Several parents also noticed Xiao and started to speak. "You are Xi's mother." "Of course he is fine. It is my son who is in trouble." "And my son? Look at how your son hurt my son. I have never been willing to hit him since he was a child. I will never let you go." "How did you educate your son? He hit someone so hard. This matter can't be settled by just paying money. Looking at your appearance, I know you are an uneducated vixen who only flirts with men. No wonder you raised such a bastard." Several angry parents surrounded Xiao and started to curse her, and the teacher couldn't stop them. "You can scold me, but you can't scold my mommy. Go away." Xiaoyi stood in front of Xiao with his small stature, his two white arms stretched wide, as if he wanted to protect Xiao behind him. Xiao was so touched that she gently stroked the little guy's furry head. "Be good, son. Get out of the way. Let mommy handle this." Xiaoyi obediently moved aside, but he was always paying attention to everyone's movements, with a stern face, looking like a little wolf who would jump up and bite to death anyone who dared to bully his mother. "Everyone." Xiao stood up straight, glanced at several angry parents one by one, and her whole body became cold. "First, my son is very well behaved. He would never cause trouble easily, let alone fight. There must be a reason why he fought with them. Second, your children all look older than my son. If you team up to deal with my son, who is bullying whom? Third, how I educate my son has nothing to do with you. You should take good care of your son first. Fourth, don't think that a pretty woman is uneducated and only flirts with men. Women nowadays can hold up half the sky without relying on men." Xiao spoke in a clear and loud voice with an imposing manner. Several parents were stunned by her for a moment and did not speak immediately. Xiao glanced at the little boys who were beaten by Xiaoyi. "We found that they were not seriously injured, just some redness, swelling and bruises on their faces and hands, which would go away in a few days." Xiaoyi spoke at the right time. "Mommy, don't worry, I know how to control my attack. I will make them feel pain but they won't be seriously injured. I won't ask you to pay a lot of medical expenses." Xiao. It seems that her son is not as innocent as she imagined. "Son, how come you are so good at fighting? He actually took on 4 people at once and won so easily. Uncle Jiang taught me that. He said a real man should be good at fighting so that he can protect the people he cares about." Xiao. Uncle Jiang, whose full name is Jiang Jingsha, is the benefactor who helped Xiao. Because of him, Xiao was able to give birth to a child successfully in prison. "The fact is that your son beat up my son. If this matter is not handled properly, I will never forgive you." A parent shouted. "Xiaoyi, tell mommy why you fought with them." Xiaoyi has always been a well-behaved person. He fought with others only because the other party pushed him into a corner. When Xiaoyi mentioned this, her face fell. "Mommy, they are the ones bullying her." Xiaoyi pointed at a little girl in the corner of an office, who was still complaining. Wang Boer and the others were so abominable. They called her a dumb girl and said she was mentally ill. They also asked her for money. When she refused to give them, they pulled her pigtails and snatched her school bag. Finally, they pushed her to the ground. I went forward to help her, but they wanted to bully me too. In the end, I fought with them. Only then did everyone notice that there was a little girl about 5 years old standing in the corner. The little girl is very beautiful, as delicate as a doll. If you ignore her messy and dirty princess dress, she looks like a little angel. Xiao recognized the little girl at a glance as the little sister who had mistaken her for her mother at the school gate that day. Chapter 9. Her father is actually Qin Mingzhou. The teacher introduced to everyone, "This is Qin Mianmian. She was here at the time, so I brought her here with me." Xiao believed that what her son said was true. A few of them actually teamed up to bully a little girl who was thinner than them. A nameless anger suddenly rose in Xiao's heart. I really didn't expect that a few brats this young would engage in school bullying. Teacher, the school will not ignore this situation, right? The teacher asked the little boys seriously. Wang Boa, tell me, is what she said true? Did you bully Qin Mianmian? Before the little boys even opened their mouths, the parents had already started talking in defense. Impossible. My son is very well behaved. How could he possibly bully a little girl younger than him? If there really was a conflict, it must have been this classmate Qin who provoked my son first. My son has so much snack money every week that he can't even spend it all. Stealing other people's money? What a joke. It's obvious that this kid is lying. He must have learned some martial arts since he was a child, and since he saw that others couldn't beat him, he came to bully others. The teacher probably couldn't stand it anymore, so he asked the biggest boy, Wang Boa, tell me what's going on. Did you really bully Qin Mianmian? Little Wang Boa may have already thought about how to lie, and started to lie with his eyes open. No, teacher, we were just passing by, and she wanted to show off his newly learned martial arts moves in front of Qin Mianmian, so he beat us. That's right. That's it. We didn't bully Qin Mianmian. The other children nodded in agreement. Wang Boa's mother was now confident, and she looked up at Xiao and said, did you hear that? It was your son Shi who was lying. He is just a kid, but he knows how to show off in front of girls. Who knows how he will harm decent girls when he grows up? Mommy, I didn't lie. It was Wang Boa and the others who lied. Teacher, there was surveillance where we were at the time. We can find out the truth by checking the surveillance. Xiao Yi didn't expect to be bitten back by Wang Boa and the others. He was very angry, but his face was very calm. There was a hint of annoyance in his big eyes. For a moment, Xiao seemed to see a smaller version of Qin Mingzhou. The adults had no objection to checking the surveillance footage. After checking the surveillance footage, we learned that it was Wang Boa and his gang who bullied Mianmian first, and they were also the first to attack Xiaoyi. The parents of those little boys did not let their sons apologize to Xiaoyi and Mianmian, and they quickly slipped away under the pretext of taking their sons back to treat their injuries. The bustling office suddenly became quiet. The teacher felt embarrassed and apologized to Xiao. Teacher, the person who should apologize is not you, and the person to apologize to is not me, but little Qin Mianmian. Xiao looked at Mianmian in the corner and found that the little girl was still maintaining the same posture as before, with her little head tilted back and her big, bright eyes like stars looking at a pot of blooming roses in the window. If you didn't know her, you would think she was an exquisite statue. Why is this child so motionless? Is he scared? The teacher explained, Qin Mianmian is different from other normal children. She has autism and usually doesn't talk or pay attention to others. She is mostly immersed in her own world. Maybe that's why those kids bully her. Xiao was about to say something to the teacher, when suddenly her face changed slightly. She strode towards Mianmian and took up Princess Qin's little hands to check them. I saw that the white and tender palm of her hand was scratched and bleeding. Mommy, this must be because Wang Boa pushed her and she fell down and got hurt. Humph, a few little boys are such cowards bullying a girl who is younger than any of them. I would have beaten them up more if I had known. Little Yi was full of righteousness and his little fists were clenched. The teacher only just discovered that Mianmian was injured and bleeding, and was a little panicked for a moment. You know, those who can enter this school are not children from ordinary families. We need to rush to the infirmary. Seeing such a cute and beautiful little girl being bullied like this, Xiao was very annoyed. Teacher, have you notified Qin Mianmian's parents to come to school? I have notified her. Her father is on his way here. Okay, I'm going to take my son to the infirmary to check if he has any injuries. I'll also take Mianmian with me to treat her wounds. When her parents come, just ask her to come to the infirmary. Xiao's face darkened, and she was so intimidating that the teacher couldn't help but follow her instructions. Okay. Xiao's gaze returned to Mian. She smoothed the little princess's messy hair and asked softly, "Your name is Mian, right?" Mian's eyes were still on the pot of roses, as if she didn't hear anything. It seems that this angelic, beautiful and pure little girl really has autism. Mian, can auntie carry you to the hospital room now? Still no answer. Xiao didn't say anything else. She gently picked up Mian, who was immersed in her own world, and called Xiaoyi out of the teacher's office. Xiaoyi knew where the school infirmary was and walked in front to lead the way. After no longer seeing the pot of roses, Mian's consciousness seemed to have finally returned to the real world. Her big eyes finally looked at Xiao, and then she smiled happily. "Mommy, you finally came to see me." Because Princess Qin had mistaken Xiao for her mother before, Xiao was not as surprised this time as she was the first time. "Mian, you got the wrong person. I'm not your mommy. You can call me Aunt Shi. You smell like mommy, you are mommy. Mommy, Mian misses you so much." Princess Qin hugged Xiao tightly. The little person in the arms is the same age and just as soft as Xiaoyi. She looks like an angel but has autism. It seems that something may have happened to her mother, and she missed her too much that she mistook her for her mother. This is too pitiful. Xiao hugged Mian tighter and stopped correcting the little one's way of calling. This school is the best in the city. The infirmary is very large, with more than 10 doctors and nurses. There was a doctor treating Mian's hand wound in a special clinic, and there was also a doctor examining Xiaoyi's wound in another clinic. Xiao took this opportunity to go to the bathroom, and when she came back, she first went to the clinic where Mian was. As she reached the door, she heard a familiar young man's voice. "Doctor, my daughter has injuries on her hands, but is everything else okay?" "Doctor, there are no external injuries elsewhere. If you are worried, you can take her to a large hospital for a checkup." Inside the clinic, a tall man in a suit held Mian in one hand and asked the doctor beside him, "It's Qin Mingzhou." There was a loud bang in Xiao's head. Qin Mian's father turned out to be Qin Mingzhou. Chapter 10. It's awesome. Before Xiao could react, the doctor who had taken Xiaoyi for a checkup walked towards her with Xiaoyi. "Dear parent, after examination, your son has no other injuries except a bruise on his arm. This is an ointment for clearing bruises and reducing swelling. Take it home and apply it on him 3 times a day." The doctor handed the ointment to Xiao. Xiao didn't answer. Her eyes were always on Qin Mingzhou and his daughter. Her heart was beating so fast at the moment that she didn't hear anything at all. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Xiaoyi noticed that his mother's expression was strange, and he followed her gaze. Suddenly, his fair and tender face fell, and he snorted coldly through his straight little nose. It turned out to be that old turtle bastard. The little guy's clear and flawless big eyes reflected a bit of hatred. "Are you Shi's mother?" When the doctor saw Xiao did not respond, he thought he had recognized the wrong person and asked again. At the same time, Mian in Qin Mingzhou's arms had been obediently resting her little head on her father's broad shoulders. When she saw Xiao at the door, her big watery eyes suddenly lit up and she immediately raised her head high. "Mommy, Daddy, look, it's Mommy." The little guy, who usually doesn't have much emotion, had a rare hint of excitement in his tone, and his tender little white hand pointed at Xiao, who was not far away. The extremely tender voice was so loud that it echoed throughout the entire infirmary. Everyone present could not help but look in the direction her little hand was pointing. "Oh no!" Xiao finally reacted. The moment Qin Mingzhou turned around, she hurriedly picked up Xiaoyi and ran outside, her speed comparable to that of human traffickers snatching children on the street. "Parent, why did you leave? You haven't got the medicine yet." The doctor shouted behind her. Xiao didn't care about all this. Her feet were like they were equipped with Hot Wheels, and the mother and son disappeared in the infirmary in an instant. It was not until they left the school that Xiao put down Xiaoyi from her arms, panting. Her heart was still beating wildly and her head was a little dizzy. Qin Mingzhou actually has a daughter. Who gave birth to him? Is it Lin Meishan's top-notch little white lotus? Or another woman? "Mommy, why are we running?" Xiaoyi grabbed Xiao's clothes, tilted his little head, and asked innocently, but he knew very well why his mother did this. "It's nothing. Mommy just saw a very annoying person and didn't want to confront him head on." Xiao was extremely grateful that she ran away quickly with her son and did not let the strange father and son meet. Xiao and Xiaoyi said that his father was dead. I believe no one would want a father who wants to kill them when they are still an embryo. This is a white lie. What Xiao didn't know was that her son, who seemed simple and innocent but was actually extremely smart, had already guessed who his father was through clues from various channels. Xiaoyi has never exposed his mother's lies, and this time is no exception. After Xiao called his teacher to ask for leave, he cooperated very well and went home happily holding his mother's hand. After Cheng Yuwei came to Jinyu community, her pretty face almost showed a look of, I have something to say, but she had to hold it back because Xiaoyi was there. After dinner, Xiaoyi went back to her room to do homework, and she immediately pulled Xiao to the balcony. Yao, as the saying goes, only by knowing yourself and your enemy can you win every battle. Since you accidentally went to the company of that bastard Qin Mingzhou for an interview, in order to prevent you from running into him again in the future, I specially asked someone to inquire about Qin Mingzhou's situation today. Xiao spent the whole day thinking about who gave birth to Qin Mingzhou's daughter. Cheng Yuewei's words really touched Xiao's heart. How did you get the information? When it comes to Qin Mingzhou's affairs, Cheng Yuwei becomes filled with indignation. Qin Mingzhou is such a bastard. He and Lin Meishan have a daughter who was born just a few days later than Xiaoyi. This proves that he was having an affair with Lin Meishan before you two got divorced. You made the right decision to divorce this cheating scumbag. But Cheng Yuwei continued, this retribution came very quickly. Lin Meishan, the mistress, had a difficult labor and the child was successfully delivered by caesarean section, but she herself died on the operating table. She and Qin Mingzhou did not have time to marry, and she was buried as a mistress after her death. Lin Meishan is dead. This news shocked Xiao even more than Qin Mingzhou having a daughter. Yes. I asked Lu Shulan for the information. He said that Lin Meishan was buried in the best cemetery in the imperial capital. This must be true. It seems that being a mistress is not illegal, but it will not end well. Cheng Yuwei sighed at the end of her words. I don't know much about Lin Maynard, but Lin Meishan is very scheming and cruel. I never expected that she would die so early. Xiao's face was filled with shock. Lu Shulan and Qin Mingzhou were classmates and had always had a good relationship. He must be aware of Qin Mingzhou's affairs. It seems that Lin Meishan is really dead. Qin Mingzhou wanted to abort her and his child, but let another woman give birth to his child. Even if she no longer loved Qin Mingzhou, she could not be indifferent to this news. She never expected that Lin Meishan, this little white lotus, would die. No wonder Qin Mingzhou has a fiancé. By the way, didn't you say that you met Qin Mingzhou's arrogant fiancé in Leo this morning? I also asked Lu Shulan. As expected, they were best friends who knew each other quite well. They were so tacitly connected that Cheng Yuwei mentioned this point without Xiao asking. He said that Qin Mingzhou is not Qin Mingzhou's fiancé yet, but the Leo company where Qin Mingzhou is currently the president is a branch of Xingyang Group, and the founder and chairman of Xingyang Group is Qin Mingzhou's biological father. Xiao, Qin Mingzhou wouldn't rely on Qin Mingzhou to become the president of Leo, right? Qin Mingzhou is as talented as he is handsome. Such a person is destined to be extraordinary. Xiao couldn't believe that after 6 years, Qin Mingzhou would be doing so badly. Sure enough, Cheng Yuwei denied it immediately. Of course not. Although Qin Mingzhou is a jerk in marriage, he is indeed a business genius. He is now described as a miraculous man by people in the business world. He is very famous and awesome in the business world. It seems like he has been living well these years. Xiao's eyes became much colder and her tone became deeper. After Cheng Yuwei finished her work this morning, she spent all her afternoon asking about Qin Mingzhou. With Lu Shulan, the encyclopedia of Qin Mingzhou, he almost found out what Qin Mingzhou had eaten for every meal in the past 6 years. Yes, Qin Mingzhou opened his own venture capital company. Because of his unique vision and keen sense of the market, he could make a lot of money by investing in anything. He accumulated a lot of wealth in the shortest time and became a famous venture capitalist. Everyone followed his lead and regarded him as the god of wealth. When it comes to Qin Mingzhou's business career, Cheng Yuwei still admires him a little. Perhaps the venture capital industry was too easy for Qin Mingzhou, and he wanted to challenge himself, so 2 years ago he became a professional manager and took over a large enterprise that was on the verge of bankruptcy. This was a chinking pit, and everyone wanted to jump out, but he actually dug in. Everyone thought that he, the ever-victorious general, was finally going to lose for once. Chapter 11. I hate him again. And then Xiao became interested. She wanted to see how great Qin Mingzhou's achievements were now. It only took Qin Mingzhou 2 years to not only revitalize a company that was about to go bankrupt, but also to make it one of the top 15 domestic companies. This shocked the entire international business community at the time. It was widely reported not only domestically, but also on the headlines of the Wall Street Journal. It was not difficult to hear from Cheng Yuewei's tone that she was very sorry not to see Qin Mingzhou get into trouble. Xiao had guessed the result, so she didn't react much. When she was in school, she knew that Qin Mingzhou was a man who could do great things, and she never doubted his abilities. So no matter how much she hated him, she never thought of foolishly provoking him after she was released from prison. Unexpectedly, he provoked her first. Cheng Yuwei continued, not only that, Qin Mingzhou seemed to have expected this result a long time ago, so when he took over the company, he didn't ask for money, but directly asked for shares to become the major shareholder of the company. Although he has been invited many times by Shen Qianyarn, the chairman of Xingyang Group, to poach Liu, the annual dividend income of this company is calculated in billions. TSK, who would have thought that the boy who was so poor that he was reluctant to change his clothes even when they were torn, and who washed dishes in a small restaurant while attending school, would have achieved what he has today. Speaking of which, this bastard Qin Mingzhou is really an excellent guy. If the person he loves is a Yao, and he treats a Yao as well as Lin Mena, how happy a Yao would be. Cheng Yuwei sighed silently in her heart. Xiao immediately asked, isn't Qin Mingzhou involved in the drone industry? No. Yaoyao UAV has monopolized the global civilian UAV market. Other UAV brands are in a slump. Qin Mingzhou is definitely not interested in industries that don't make money. Moreover, it is difficult for Qin Mingzhou, an outsider, to do such technological and professional things. Cheng Yuwei was a little confused. Yao, why do you suddenly ask this? Xiao replied, nothing. In fact, the reason why she asked this was because Qin Mingzhou had been saving money to tinker with drones when he was in high school. The first drone he made was made by her, and she shamelessly followed him to test fly it in the wild. After the test flight was successful, the usually deep and mature boy was as happy as a child, and excitedly described the future of drones to her. He said that with the improvement and upgrading of drones, they can play an increasingly important role in various fields. It has unlimited possibilities and it is his future. Qin Mingzhou actually gave up this business. Cheng Yuwei didn't care about this problem, but comforted Xiao instead. Xingyang hired Qin Mingzhou, a professional manager, as the president of Leo with a high salary. It seems that Leo has a big problem. It's a good thing that you didn't get the job. Xiao shook her head. Not necessarily. It is also possible that Shen Mingzhou, the daughter of the chairman of Xingyang Group, has taken a fancy to Qin Mingzhou and asked her father to hire Qin Mingzhou to work for her group so that he can get the upper hand. Who knows, Qin Mingzhou may become the son-in-law of Chairman Shen soon. Xiao said it seemingly nonchalantly. Cheng Yuwei found that her slender hands were clenched tightly, and her nails had dug deeply into the flesh of her palms. In the following days, Xiao ran around looking for a job. Cheng Yuwei contacted the companies that had previously contacted her to hire Melinda one by one, but unexpectedly, they all said that they had already recruited people and had no shortage of staff. So Xiao submitted her resume online. All the resumes I submitted were ignored. She had to lower her standards and invest in some small clothing brand companies and some unknown clothing designer studios. This time, a company finally notified her to go for an interview. After the interview, let her go back and wait for notification. Xiao originally thought there was no hope. Unexpectedly, on the third day the company called her and asked her to come for a second round of interview. She was told that the boss would interview her personally and that she could start working directly if she passed the interview. He also sent her the interview address. When Xiao arrived at the interview location, she found that it was a high-end club. Manager Sun, who had interviewed her before, was waiting for her at the door. When he saw her coming, he took her directly into a private room. There were 2 men and 2 women sitting on the sofa in the box. They were all wearing business suits and looked very serious. Xiao felt relieved. Manager Sun was very good at dealing with people and started to introduce them one by one. This is Miss Xiao Shi, also known as Designer Melinda. Ms. Shi, this is Mr. Wang, our boss. Mr. Wang met you on the day you came to the company for an interview. He thinks highly of you. This is Director Li, our second in command. This is Manager Chen, and that is Mr. Wang's secretary. Xiao greeted the four people separately. The boss, Mr. Wang, who was sitting in the middle, was about 50 years old, with a fat head and big ears. He stared at Xiao and said with a smile, "Miss Mai looks just like the dress you designed. She is really beautiful and elegant. It makes people like her. The quick glance I saw of you in the company 2 or 3 days ago really makes me remember it." President Wang's words and look made Xiao feel uncomfortable. She politely replied, "Thank you for the compliment." Next, Director Li asked her some professional questions, and Manager Chen occasionally interjected a word or two, and Xiao answered them all seriously. After that it was Mr. Wang's turn. The questions he asked were quite broad and it felt more like a chat than an interview. All of them drank Yao wine intentionally or unintentionally. Xiao pushed what she could push away, and had to drink what she couldn't push away. She planned to run away when she realized she might get drunk if she drank any more. "Mr. Wang, the interview has already lasted 3 hours. I don't know the result." "Xiaoyao, it seems you are impatient. There is still so much wine left. Let's drink it first," Mr. Wang said, picking up the wine bottle and wanting to fill Xiao's glass. In the box, apart from Xiao, only Mr. Wang was left. Everyone else found excuses to leave one by one. The greasy middle-aged man looked at Xiao with an increasingly undisguised gaze. If Xiao still doesn't understand what Mr. Wang thinks of her, she has lived all these years in vain. She didn't give Mr. Wang any face and stood up directly. "Mr. Wang, I have something else to do and I have to leave first. Please inform me of the interview results when the time comes." After saying that, she turned and left. Etc. Mr. Wang walked towards Xiao, no longer pretending, and his obscene look became apparent, as if he was going to pounce on Xiao and eat her up the next moment. "Xiaoyao, you seem to be a sensible person, so I'll tell you directly. If you pass the interview, in addition to the company's benefits, I will give you an additional 50,000 yuan per month. In addition to your job, you will be available whenever I need you. How about that?" Xiao sneered, "Boss Wang, do you want to support me?" Mr. Wang drank some wine, and the alcohol was evaporating from his body, making him feel a little excited. Xiao's upturned red lips tempted him to swallow his saliva hard, and his body, which had already reacted, became even harder. "Yes, as long as you promise to accompany me, your brother, for once, I can transfer 50,000 yuan to you right now." Xiao found it funny but also a little sad. How did she, the eldest daughter of the Shi family, end up like this? Xiao's hatred towards Qin Mingzhou increased a little. Chapter 12. Ask him. "I refuse. Mr. Wang, please find someone else." Xiao didn't want to say a word to the old pervert in front of her, so she turned around and left. "Don't go. Everything can be discussed." Unexpectedly, President Wang was overwhelmed by lust. He strode forward, grabbed Xiao and pushed her against the wall, pressing her against the wall. His lustful look was extremely disgusting. "Xiaoyao, you are so beautiful. Let go." "Mr. Wang, I'm here for a job interview. Please stop making a scene." Xiao did not panic. Her eyebrows were slightly furrowed, and her delicate little face, which was the size of a palm, was tense. She is confident that she can deal with a fat man like Mr. Wang who is extremely weak due to excessive indulgence in sexual activities. "Xiaoyao, my little beauty, I was fascinated by you the first time I saw you. I really like you. 50,000 a month is too little, right? How about 100,000? It doesn't matter how much you give me, I won't sell myself, get out of here." Xiao was angry and struggled to leave, but she didn't expect Mr. Wang to be even more excessive. "My little beauty, let me love you well. I'm very good in bed, you will definitely like it." The fat and plump-eared man came over with his greasy face and wanted to kiss Xiao. Xiao felt so sick that she wanted to vomit, and anger rose in her heart. "I can't stand it anymore." Xiao turned her head to avoid Mr. Wang, and at the same time, she raised her long knees and kicked the man's third leg under his crotch with incredible precision. It hurts so much." Xiao used the same trick she used against Qin Mingzhou. Mr. Wang was not as patient as Qin Mingzhou. He covered his lower body in pain and jumped around on the spot, howling like a pig being slaughtered. After Xi Yao was free, she felt that the air in the private room was disgusting. She didn't even want to look at President Wang and walked away. Bitch, stop right there, stop right there. Mr. Wang jumped after her, covering his genitals. When Xi Yao came out of the private room, she was surprised to see two grown men, Manager Sun and Director Li, standing by the door smoking. Mr. Wang behind him yelled, "Fuck, catch her." Mr. Wang might be in poor health, but his voice was quite loud. Manager Sun and Director Li immediately dropped their cigarettes and grabbed Xi Yao, who was trying to escape, from the left and right. Xi Yao struggled hard, but Manager Sun and Director Li, two tall northern men, were too strong and she couldn't break free. Mr. Wang walked over with a strange posture, the fat on his face trembling with anger, and pinched Xi Yao's thin and small chin with one hand. "Damn it, you dare to kick me, you're dead." Then he ordered, "Bring her back to the private room." Manager Sun and Director Li may often help General Manager Wang do this kind of thing of forcing women, so they are no longer surprised and they took Xi Yao and walked into the private room. Xi Yao's fair face flushed slightly with anger. "What do you want to do in broad daylight? Let me go, waiter, someone come here." Maybe because business was slow during the day, there was no one in the corridor of the club. "Stop yelling. It's your blessing that our President Wang likes you." While speaking, Director Li took an obscene look at Xi Yao's breasts that were still upright even in her formal dress. Manager Sun's previous honest face turned into a Philistine face. "Miss Xi, don't struggle anymore. Mr. Wang is a very important person. Serve him well. You will be indispensable in the future." Xi Yao felt that she was extremely unlucky. "I went for an interview and actually met these scumbags who forced women of good character into prostitution." What Xi Yao, as the eldest daughter of the Xi family, didn't know was that having unparalleled beauty but no background or backing, and trying to survive in the licentious and confusing metropolis was itself very dangerous. "What are you trying to do? Are you planning to rape me after harassing me? Let me go now, and I won't sue you." "I'm going to kill you today," Mr. Wang said viciously. "There's no surveillance here, and there won't be any evidence left. You can't do anything to me no matter how you sue me. I didn't see any cameras along the way." This old pervert obviously came prepared. This is trouble. What to do? Xi Yao was completely panicked now. Just as she was thinking of ways to save herself and was about to be dragged into the private room, someone nearby spoke up, "Mr. Wang. I saw that the door of the box diagonally opposite was open, and a faint smell of alcohol was coming out of the box." Two young men in suits were standing at the door. The man in the front had a pair of long, straight legs, cold and indifferent eyes, and an extremely handsome face without much expression. Just standing there quietly gave people a sense of noble majesty without even getting angry. Xi Yao was stunned for a moment. She didn't know whether she was lucky or unlucky today. She could actually meet Qin Mingzhou at this time. "Boss Qin." Mr. Wang was very surprised and a little flattered that Qin Mingzhou would take the initiative to call him. Mr. Wang, who was originally arrogant, immediately showed a fawning smile when he saw Qin Mingzhou, and walked towards him with big strides like a dog seeing a bone. "Boss Qin, I didn't expect to see you here. Do you have an appointment?" Qin Mingzhou seemed not to have noticed Xi Yao, and replied to Mr. Wang expressionlessly, "Yeah, I just had a few drinks with Secretary Zhu." Lin Cheng behind him glanced at Xi Yao and finally understood why his CEO and Secretary Zhu did not leave after the dinner, and even took the initiative to greet Mr. Wang, whom he usually looked down upon. "Boss Qin is amazing. Secretary Zhu and I have tried to get him to come out more than a dozen times but failed. It's a rare chance to meet Boss Qin. Today, I will pay for all of Boss Qin's expenses here." Mr. Wang smiled on the surface, but in his heart he was impressed by Qin Mingzhou's resourcefulness, as he was able to get the provincial party secretary out even under such a severe crackdown. It's really amazing that a pretty boy who started from scratch could make it to this point. Qin Mingzhou stood as straight as a pine tree, which made him look even taller, longer-legged and more extraordinary. "No need to trouble Mr. Wang, the order has already been signed." "I see." Mr. Wang originally wanted to please Qin Mingzhou so that it would be easier for him to ask for favors later, but he didn't expect his plan to fail. "Then I will come to invite Mr. Qin another day." "Mr. Qin must show his favor then." "It depends on the schedule. Since Mr. Wang has something else to do, I won't bother you anymore." Qin Mingzhou didn't even glance at Xi Yao, he just turned around and left. "Qin Mingzhou." Mr. Qin, wait a minute. Xi Yao and Mr. Wang were both anxious and called out to him at the same time. Mr. Wang has always wanted to work with Qin Mingzhou on a project, but Qin Mingzhou has repeatedly refused to meet him. It is a rare opportunity to meet him in person, so he doesn't want to miss it. Xi Yao had no choice. It's clear at first glance that Mr. Wang is not a good guy. If we are really dragged into the box by his people, we're done for. She could only ask Qin Mingzhou for help. Qin Mingzhou turned around again, and his cold gaze finally fell on Xi Yao, as if he had just discovered her. So you're here too? Xi Yao. She was such a grown-up person standing there the whole time, she just didn't believe he didn't see it. The bastard did it on purpose. Mr. Wang looked back and forth between the two with a curious gaze, and asked with a smile, does Mr. Qin know her? Qin Mingzhou, I know him. Mr. Wang started to get a little nervous. He wouldn't accidentally offend Qin Mingzhou's woman, would he? A woman's pillow talk should not be underestimated. Director Li and manager Sun also didn't want to offend Qin Mingzhou, but they didn't dare to let Xi Yao go without President Wang's order. But not familiar with it. Qin Mingzhou quickly replied. Before Mr. Wang could relax, Xi Yao called out, Qin Mingzhou, we knew each other when we were teenagers, got married, and shared the same household registration. You call that unfamiliarity? Mr. Wang. Mr. Wang's body began to tremble. Everyone in the business world knows that Qin Mingzhou is a vindictive guy. Finished. President Wang couldn't even speak clearly. President Qin, I don't know if she is. She is just an ex-wife who has been divorced. She has nothing to do with me anymore. Mr. Wang can play with her as he pleases. Qin Mingzhou had an icy face and interrupted Mr. Wang without any fluctuation in his tone. Chapter 13, Nourish Your Kidneys. Qin Mingzhou turned around again and left without mercy, with Lin Cheng following closely behind. The corridor returned to peace. Seeing that Qin Mingzhou really didn't care, Mr. Wang felt relieved again. If it were normal, in this situation, she's just a woman, so I wouldn't play with her. But Xi Yao's appearance is really pleasing to Mr. Wang's eyes. That small face, that plump breasts, that slender waist. Mr. Wang couldn't wait to get the man under him and have some fun with him. The man's lustful gaze made Xi Yao want to vomit, and her face turned red with anger. She looked at Qin Mingzhou's back as if she was looking at her last straw. Qin Mingzhou, tell me, what do you want me to do to save me? Qin Mingzhou likes her body. She is also his ex-wife. He misunderstood that she had such a big reaction when she went to bed with Feng Xiao. Xi Yao didn't believe that he could accept her body being defiled by a despicable man like Mr. Wang. Qin Mingzhou wanted to wait for her to ask him to save her. Qin Mingzhou stopped but did not turn around. His unique cold and magnetic voice rang out. Xi Yao, you know. She knows. Yes, Qin Mingzhou was obsessed with making her serve the full 9 years in prison, and wanted to throw her back into prison to spend another 3 years in darkness. No, you can't. She had finally been reunited with her son, so how could she return to the darkness of despair and pain? Then there's nothing to talk about. Qin Mingzhou moved his long legs again, walking farther and farther away, and soon disappeared around the corner with his assistant. Xi Yao half bit her lower lip, staring at Qin Mingzhou's back with an increasingly deep gaze, and her eyes gradually became sore. Yes, asking Qin Mingzhou to save her, isn't he that funny? Mr. Wang saw that Xi Yao's sexy collarbone and white shoulder were exposed on one side because of the pulling just now, and the thing that had been kicked soft became hard again. His mind was full of dirty trash and he couldn't wait any longer. Quick, take him back to the box. No matter how Xi Yao struggled, she could not escape from the two tall men and was soon taken back to the box. That kick just now almost killed off his family line. Maybe Mr. Wang was afraid of Xi Yao, so he didn't dare to get close to her. He asked manager Sun and director Li to force her to lie on the sofa and start to unbuckle her belt and take off her pants. Fatty, if you dare to touch me, I will definitely kick your disgusting thing to pieces. Xi Yao's words sounded harsh, but her beauty was not aggressive at all. Instead, she had a kind of delicate and fragility that was appealing. Not only did these words not pose any threat to Mr. Wang, but they made him even more excited. Kicking off his half-taken pants, Mr. Wang hurried towards Xi Yao. My little beauty, here I come. Mr. Wang found a good seat, but before he could meet Xi Yao, the door of the box was kicked open. Before anyone could react, Mr. Wang was grabbed by the collar and thrown aside from behind. Mr. Wang fell and felt dizzy, and couldn't get up for a while. Ouch, it hurts, come, help me up, come on. Manager Sun and Director Li's two henchmen let go of Yaoyao and rushed to help him. Mr. Qin. Mr. Wang didn't expect Qin Mingzhou to come back. He was so shocked that he even forgot to put on his pants. Qin Mingzhou roared, "Get out if you don't want to die." Qin Mingzhou was completely different from the person he was just now. His face was full of anger and his eyes were cold and sinister, like a god of death crawling out from hell, ready to start a killing spree in the next second. It was creepy to look at him. Mr. Wang and the other three had no time to think at all. Overwhelmed by his powerful aura, Mr. Wang hurriedly rolled out of the box with his two thugs, naked. As soon as Yaoyao sat up from the sofa, the man pressed her hard against the back of the sofa. Fortunately, the back of the sofa was soft, otherwise her back would definitely be bruised. Qin Mingzhou leaned over and moved closer to her. Because the distance was too close, his handsome face suddenly enlarged in front of Yaoyao. Yaoyao saw his handsome face with flawless skin, but she could also see the muscles on his face moving slightly and veins bulging on his forehead. This is what Qin Mingzhou looks like when he is extremely angry. "Yaoyao, why are you so stubborn?" he asked, almost gritting his teeth, and his icy face finally cracked. Yaoyao had predicted that he would come back, so she was not surprised. Yaoyao looked straight at him, and their long, fluttering eyelashes almost touched each other. The atmosphere, which should have been ambiguous, seemed tense instead. "If I wasn't so stubborn, I would have married Xiao Hanlin instead of you." She and Qin Mingzhou were not a good match. Xiao Hanlin was the son-in-law her father carefully selected for her, but she didn't like him. If she had not been stubborn and persistent enough back then, she and Qin Mingzhou would never have been able to get married. "Qin Mingzhou, how could I be so blind as to fall in love with you? I should have listened to my father and married Xiao Hanlin. With his help, our Shi family would definitely not have gone bankrupt, my father would not have committed suicide, and I would not have to come to this point. Qin Mingzhou, I really regret choosing you." Qin Mingzhou knew that what Yaoyao said was what she was thinking now. So this is what she thinks now. Qin Mingzhou sneered twice, his tall body almost completely covering the little woman in front of him, and his eyes became even more sinister. "Xiao Hanlin, do you think he is a good guy? If he really loves you as much as he says, why didn't he come out to help you even once when you were in jail? That's better than you, a beast who cheated on his wife and aborted his own child with your own hands." Yaoyao responded angrily. "Yaoyao, you forced me to marry you back then. I don't love you, and you know that very well, don't you? What right do you have to blame and resent me now? Why? Ha 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 ha, why?" Yaoyao smiled, but there was no smile in her eyes. Soon, her face turned cold. "You caused me to sit in jail for 6 years for no reason, and you also poisoned my child. You actually asked me why. Qin Mingzhou, you will be punished for your evil deeds." Yaoyao seemed to have thought of something and smiled suddenly. "Oh, I forgot, your retribution has come. Lin Maynor, the substitute, is dead. If you want to see Lin Meishan, you can only go to her grave. Also, I heard that the daughter Lin Maynor gave birth to for you is autistic. This is the sin you committed." "Shut up." Qin Mingzhou suddenly interrupted her angrily. A dangerous light flashed in the man's eyes. "Yaoyao, if you hadn't appeared in front of me, I would have considered letting you go. Now, you've brought yourself to my door, so you can't blame me." Yaoyao had a bad feeling and subconsciously wanted to escape. Before he could take any action, he was knocked unconscious by Qin Mingzhou's knife attack the next second. Lin Cheng closed the door of the box for the two of them when Qin Mingzhou pushed Yaoyao against the back of the sofa. Now he is standing at the door of the box dutifully. Originally, he thought that Qin Mingzhou, who rarely had meat, would not come out of the box until tomorrow morning, and he was thinking about arranging a new set of clothes for both of them to change into. Unexpectedly, in less than 20 minutes, Qin Mingzhou came out carrying the unconscious Yaoyao. Lin Cheng. In less than 20 minutes. Is it time for his CEO to replenish his kidneys? Qin Mingzhou ignored Lin Cheng's strange look at him, and walked towards the elevator with Yaoyao in his arms while giving instructions. "Arrange a helicopter immediately." "Okay, where is the president going to fly?" Songming Island. Chapter 14: The Man Who Is Obsessed with Her. Songming Island is a private island purchased by Qin Mingzhou not long ago. It was a deserted island with no one living there. Sending Xiao there for 3 years would be no different from going to jail. Lin Cheng immediately understood what Qin Mingzhou meant, and responded immediately, "Okay, President." Then he took out his cell phone to make a call and start making arrangements. Qin Mingzhou held the unconscious Xiao horizontally and walked steadily towards the elevator, but bumped into a group of people head-on at the corner of the corridor. Qin Mingzhou's body paused and his expression changed subtly. Lin Cheng was also stunned and quickly hung up the phone. Standing in front of them were 6 or 7 men in suits. Walking in the front were 2 middle-aged men. One of them was in very good shape, with a tall stature and regular features. His pair of black eyes, which had been weathered by the years, were as deep and unfathomable as the sky. When he saw Xiao in Qin Mingzhou's arms, his pupils shrank slightly. Qin Mingzhou had come back to his senses and called out to the man in a neither humble nor arrogant manner, "Uncle Shen." Then he called out to another middle-aged man who was leading the group, "Boss Wu." Shen Qianyang did not respond to Qin Mingzhou's greeting. He stared at Xiao with a pair of black eyes as deep as the sea, and it seemed as if something was about to surge out from his eyes. Mr. Wu grinned with his big round belly, glanced at Xiao who was in Qin Mingzhou's arms, his eyes flashing with gossip. "Oh, this beauty is quite pretty. President Qin is very lucky." Mr. Wu misunderstood. Qin Mingzhou did not have any extra explanation. In fact, his attention was all on Shen Qianyang at this time. He tightened his arms around Xiao slightly. Although there was no ripple on his face, his heart was already in great waves. There was a young man standing next to Shen Qianyang. The man wore gold-rimmed glasses and had a handsome and gentle face. At this moment, his eyes were full of disbelief. His expression suddenly became very complicated, and he almost whispered, "Xiao? Why is she here?" Qin Mingzhou said sarcastically, "Boss Xiao, 6 or 7 years have passed, and I didn't expect you to recognize my ex-wife at first sight. It seems that you really can't forget my ex-wife." As Qin Mingzhou spoke, he threw the unconscious Xiao to Lin Cheng. Lin Cheng reacted quickly and immediately hugged Xiao, who was still unconscious and was thrown by Qin Mingzhou. However, because it was too sudden and he didn't take it into consideration, Xiao's forehead hit the corner of the corridor. Judging from the sound, their collision was quite heavy. However, Qin Mingzhou did not give Xiao any more looks, as if even if Xiao was hit to death, it had nothing to do with him. However, Xiao Hanlan's eyes tightened and he glared at Lin Cheng. Lin Cheng. However, Xiao Hanlan quickly returned to normal. The complicated expression had long disappeared without a trace. When he looked at Qin Mingzhou, a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Boss Qin, you're joking. I was just too surprised to see an old friend who should have been in jail suddenly appear in Boss Qin's arms. What, is Boss Qin planning to rekindle his old relationship with his ex-wife? Mr. Xiao knows best how Xiao and I got married. Mr. Xiao treated her like a treasure back then, but she was just a weed to me. Now she is just a weed who wants to hug me, a strong tree." Qin Mingzhou finished his speech and glanced at Shen Qianyang out of the corner of his eye. His last words were addressed to Shen Qianyang. Mr. Wu is also a well-known big boss in the business world who is good at making money, but he has the gossipy heart of an old lady. In his mind, he had already arranged a bloody love triangle story for Qin Mingzhou, Xiao, and Xiao Hanlan. He loved her, she loved another him, and he also loved another her. He immediately asked with great interest, "Then what is Mr. Qin doing?" "Mr. Wu, we are here to discuss serious matters today. Let's go to the private room first." Shen Qianyang interrupted Mr. Wu. It seemed that he was discussing something, but his tone was unquestionable. Shen Qianyang has a sense of majesty. He overpowers Mr. Wu in terms of status and aura. Moreover, he is well connected in both the black and white worlds. How could Mr. Wu dare to say no? Yes, business is more important. "Mr. Qin, let's talk about it when we have time." "Okay." Qin Mingzhou said to Shen Qianyang indifferently, "Uncle Shen, take care." When Shen Qianyang and his group left, Xiao Hanlan looked at Xiao for a few deep glances before looking away. As he walked away, he approached Shen Qianyang and whispered, "Godfather, Xiao." Shen Qianyang interrupted him, "Let's talk about it when we get back." "Yes." After Shen Qianyang and his group disappeared in the corridor, Qin Mingzhou still stood there without moving. Somehow, Lin Cheng felt that Qin Mingzhou's tall and straight back seemed to have suffered a severe blow, and there was a hint of sadness and loneliness. After a while, Qin Mingzhou turned around. His thin lips had turned extremely pale, and his dark eyes were fixed on Xiao in Lin Cheng's arms. No one knew what he was thinking. Lin Cheng could sense that he was in a very bad mood. He held Xiao in his arms and dared not move, wishing he was a wooden man. It was not until his arms were sore from holding someone and he could no longer hold on that he finally asked, "President, the helicopter to Songming Island should be almost ready. We can go over now." Qin Mingzhou's cold and thin lips moved slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end he swallowed the words that were about to come out, as if he had made a major decision. "No need, let her friend come and take her back." Lin Chen, okay. When Xiao woke up, she was already in her room. Her son was holding an ice cube wrapped in a cloth in his little hands and applying it to her swollen and painful forehead, with a very serious expression on his face. Seeing her open her eyes, Xiaoyi's eyes lit up and he immediately shouted, "Mommy, you're awake." "Well, son, what's wrong with me?" Xiao felt pain on her forehead and wanted to reach out to touch it, but was stopped by Xiaoyi. "Mommy, don't touch it. Your forehead is injured and swollen. I'm applying ice to it. It won't hurt so much when the swelling goes down." There was another person in the room besides the mother and son. "Fuck, Qin Mingzhou, that bastard, actually hit a woman." "What do you mean your president didn't beat her? Your president saved her." "I don't believe Qin Mingzhou is so kind." "I'm telling you, don't think that we can't do anything to Qin Mingzhou without evidence." "Hey, Yaoyao, you finally woke up." Cheng Yue, who was originally angrily on the phone, hung up the phone quickly when she saw Xiao wake up and walked towards her. "Yaoyao, how do you feel? Do you feel any other discomfort? Do you want to go to the hospital?" Cheng Yue looked very nervous, fearing that Xiao had suffered some inhuman abuse at Qin Mingzhou's hands. "No more, Yue, what's going on?" Xiao was knocked unconscious by Qin Mingzhou. Before she lost consciousness, she thought that Qin Mingzhou would definitely find a place to imprison her for 3 years to make her atone for her sins. It wouldn't be so easy for her to escape this time. Unexpectedly, she guessed wrong. "I was just about to ask you what happened. I picked you up from Qin Mingzhou's assistant. Weren't you going for a job interview? How did you get involved with Qin Mingzhou again?" Xiao was about to answer honestly when she saw Xiaoyi sitting on the bed. The little fellow held his chin with his 2 tender white hands, opened his big curious eyes, and looked like he was listening attentively. Xiao suddenly fell silent. Xiaoyi smiled and asked innocently, "Mommy, who is Qin Mingzhou?" Xiao and Cheng Yue, who had previously agreed not to mention his father Qin Mingzhou in front of Xiaoyi, said. At this time, there was a knock on the door of the room and Aunt Lin came in and rescued them in time. "Miss, you're awake just in time. Mr. Jiang is here." Chapter 15. What is your relationship with him? When Xiaoyi heard that Jiang Jingshi was coming, he seemed to have forgotten the question he had just asked and jumped up with joy. "Is Uncle Jiang here?" Aunt Lin seemed to have known that the little one would have this reaction, and said with a smile, "Yes, Mr. Jiang is in the living room now." After Xiao was released from prison, she contacted Jiang Jingshi, her great benefactor, and wanted to invite him to dinner. Unfortunately, he had been on a business trip abroad. It seemed that he had returned from his business trip now. Xiao, Xiaoyi and Cheng Yue went to the living room together. In the living room, a young man wearing a custom-made designer suit was sitting on the sofa drinking tea. He had an extremely handsome face, elegant and gentlemanly manners, and his simple movements were full of eye-catching charm. When Jiang Jingshi saw the 3 people, he put down his teacup and stood up. His pair of straight long legs were simply amazing. His deep gaze suddenly fell on Xiao. "Miss Xi, long time no see." Xiao smiled and said, "It's been a long time since we last met. Mr. Jiang, please don't just stand there. Please take a seat." The number of times Xiao and Jiang Jingshi had met could be counted on dozens of fingers, and each time was in prison, so the two were actually not very familiar with each other. After greeting Xiao, the gentle Jiang Jingshi also greeted Cheng Yue. Cheng Yue was not familiar with him either, so she responded politely with some polite words. "Uncle Jiang, you're finally back from your business trip. It's been too long this time." Xiaoyi seemed to be very familiar with him. He ran towards him, hugged one of his arms with great familiarity, and asked with a smile, his big eyes smiling into a crescent shape. Jiang Jingshi raised the corner of his mouth slightly, looking like he was in a good mood, and gently rubbed Xiaoyi's head with his big hand. Well, there were a lot of things this time, and it took time to deal with them, so it took a little longer. After saying that, Jiang Jingshi took out 2 gift boxes and handed them to Xiaoyi and Xiyao, mother and son, one after the other. Xiaoyi, these are the roller skates I bought for you. Miss Xi, this is for you, congratulations on regaining your freedom. Seeing that the gift he gave was reasonably priced, Xiyao accepted it. Thank you. I'm sorry for the expense. They are just small things. They are not expensive. Then a few people sat on the sofa and chatted, and the topic almost revolved around Xiaoyi. Jiang Jingshi seems to like Xiaoyi very much and comes to visit Xiaoyi whenever he is free. During the years that Xiao was in prison, if Cheng Yuwei, the godmother, played the role of Xiaoyi's mother, then Jiang Jingshi played the role of Xiaoyi's father. Xiao was grateful to him from the bottom of her heart, and responded to his attitude towards others with a little more enthusiasm. Because he was so handsome, Cheng Yuwei, who was obsessed with looks, almost never took her eyes off him. Not to mention Xiao Yi, who was either circling around Jiang Jingshi or being held in Xiao's arms. When the adults had almost finished chatting, the little girl put her 2 pink arms directly onto Jiang Jingshi's long and strong arms. Uncle Jiang, didn't you give me homework last time you came over? I finished it. Do you want to check it now? Jiang Jingshi lovingly stroked Xiaoyi's naturally curly black hair and said with a faint smile, Okay, Miss Xi and Miss Cheng, I'll be leaving for a moment. Xiyao and Cheng Yuwei, okay. Xiao Yi and Xiyao also greeted them, Mommy, Uncle Jiang and I will go to the study first, and we will come out to accompany you later. Well, go ahead. I'll call you when it's time to eat. Okay. Xiao Yi happily took Jiang Jingshi's hand and walked into his study. After the two left, Cheng Yuwei's eyes followed Jiang Jingshi for a while. After he could no longer see the two of them, he moved closer to Xiyao and said, Jiang Jingshi is such a gentleman and handsome. I heard that he doesn't have a girlfriend yet, and is so good to Xiaoyi. Cheng Yuwei smiled and gently bumped Xiyao's shoulder, teasing, Do you think Jiang Jingshi has taken a fancy to you and wants to be Xiaoyi's stepfather? Xiyao didn't know why Cheng Yuwei had such an idea, and she was suddenly at a loss whether to laugh or cry. Don't be ridiculous. He's a tall, rich, handsome, single man. I'm a former jailer, divorced, and have a kid. Unless he's blind, there's no way he'd be interested in me. Don't say that. You're still as beautiful as ever. In terms of appearance, you and Jiang Jingshi are a good match. Xiyao said seriously, Yu Wei, don't talk about this anymore. It will be bad if Mr. Jiang hears it. Besides, I don't plan to have a relationship now. I just want to work hard to make money and let Xiaoyi live the best life. Cheng Yuwei nodded in agreement, that's right, being a man is not as important as making money. Because of Jiang Jingshi's arrival, Aunt Lin specially added more dishes, so they had a very pleasant dinner. After dinner, Xiao called Jiang Jingshi to the balcony and handed him a bank card. Mr. Jiang, this is for you. The man's handsome face showed some doubt. Miss Xi, what is this? Mr. Jiang, thank you very much for taking care of Xiaoyi all the time. There is 2 million in this card, and the password is Xiaoyi's birthday. This is all I have now, I hope you don't mind. Also, I will find a place to live as soon as possible and move out with Xiaoyi's Aunt Lin. Jiang Jingshi narrowed his narrow eyes slightly, and the faint smile on his face disappeared, making his handsome face look a little cold, which was rare. Miss Xi, are you planning to bring Xiao Yi and me to draw a line? Xiyao didn't expect Jiang Jingshi to think this way, and quickly explained, No, Mr. Jiang, please don't misunderstand. Although my father once funded you, so that you can go to college and achieve what you have today, but you have helped me enough, and no one's money comes from the wind, so please accept this money. After we move out of here, if you want, you can come to visit Xiaoyi often. Xiyao really felt that Jiang Jingshi had helped them and their son enough. He certainly couldn't repay him in other ways, but he still had to pay back the money he owed. Jiang Jingshi did not answer immediately. He seemed to be thinking, as if he had thought of something, and his brows were furrowed. Ms. Xi, as far as I know, the Xi Group went bankrupt and sold off all its properties. All the assets under your name have been used to pay off debts. How did you get the 2 million? Mr. Jiang, please rest assured that this money is the bonus I won from participating in the designer award. It is absolutely clean and there is no dispute. After giving birth to Xiaoyi in prison, Xiao picked up her pen again to design things, and Cheng Yuwei helped her submit them to make money. She has had income in the past 2 years, and she recently won the LMH Designer Award Gold Prize, with a prize of 250,000 euros, or about 1.9 million yuan. She didn't like owing anyone money, so the first thing she thought of doing was to pay it back to Jiang Jingshi when she had money. Ms. Cheng mentioned to me before and asked her to submit your design manuscript. I didn't expect that you won the grand prize in the competition. Jiang Jingshi's tightly furrowed brows relaxed now, and he regained his gentle look, with even the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Ms. Shi, I can accept the card. You and Xiaoyi can live here. I have a lot of real estate. It would be a waste if you don't live here. Besides, Xiaoyi has lived here since he was a child. He regards this place as his home. It would be bad for him to move to a new place. Xiao thought of how happy Xiaoyi was when he took her hand to introduce their house to her. It was obvious that Xiaoyi really liked this place and regarded it as his home. Well, Xiaoyi and I will continue to live here for now. Mr. Jiang, thank you very much. Miss Jiang, you don't have to be so polite. I actually have a question I'd like to ask. Please go ahead. Jiang Jingshi stared at Xiao with his deep, dark eyes. You were able to be released early because someone helped you. Who is that person to you? What is your relationship with him? Xiao was slightly startled as she didn't expect him to ask such a personal question. Chapter 16 Childhood Sweetheart. Xiao didn't know why, but she suddenly remembered that the last person who asked her about her relationship with Feng Zia was Qin Mingzhou. Jiang Jingshi saw that Xiao didn't answer for a while, and perhaps he felt that he asked too detailed questions, so he added another sentence. Ms. Shi, no one has stepped forward to help you before except me. I also used some of my connections to help you get out of prison early, but unfortunately it didn't work. So I'm curious about who is helping you this time. I hope you don't mind. After his explanation, Xiao felt it made sense, so she answered his question honestly. He is a friend who grew up with me. Because he was abroad, he didn't know about my accident. After he returned to China and learned about my situation, he lent me a helping hand. Jiang Jingshi still had that calm and gentle look on his face, and he said casually, so, you two are childhood sweethearts. Xiao did not deny it, I guess so. When Jiang Jingshi left, Xiaoyi was reluctant to leave. He even took Xiao's hand and sent him to the elevator. He tilted his head and opened his big round eyes and asked, Uncle Jiang, are you going on another business trip? Not for now. Jiang Jingshi stood at the elevator entrance. He had a tall and slender figure and a handsome face. He just stood there casually waiting for the elevator, just like the male lead in an idol drama. Xiaoyi immediately smiled happily. Uncle Jiang, can you come to the gym this weekend? I am now very good at using the moves you taught me before. I have also used this move to help a female classmate who was bullied at school. Jiang Jingshi did not answer immediately, but his deep eyes moved slightly. Xiao felt that he was busy, or that Xiaoyi's request made him feel awkward, so he said, Xiaoyi, Mr. Jiang just came back from a business trip, he must be very busy, let's not disturb him for now. No problem. I'm not so busy that I don't have time even on the weekend. Jiang Jingshi interrupted Xiao just as the elevator arrived. When the elevator opened, he bent down in front of Xiaoyi, raised the corner of his mouth, and raised his hand to gently stroke Xiaoyi's head. Xiaoyi, see you this weekend. Seeing that he agreed, Xiaoyi was overjoyed and replied with a smile, yes, Uncle Jiang, see you this weekend. After Jiang Jingshi left, the mother and son returned home holding hands. Xiaoyi said, Mommy, what do you think of Uncle Jiang? When her son asked, Xiao didn't think too much about it and answered truthfully, he's a nice guy. Yeah, I also think Uncle Jiang is a very nice person, and he is more handsome than all the uncles I have ever seen. Do you think Uncle Jiang is handsome, Mommy? Jiang Jingshi looks like that, anyone with a normal eye would think he's handsome. Does Mommy think Uncle Jiang is handsome too? Of course he's handsome. Otherwise, your godmother, who is obsessed with looks, wouldn't have stared at him all night. Xiaoyi smiled even more happily. It seems there is hope of having Uncle Jiang be his stepfather. Back in the living room, as it was already 9 o'clock in the evening, Xiaoyi was taken by Aunt Lin to take a bath. Xiao sat on the sofa and drank water slowly, thinking of Jiang Jingshi. This was the first time she was so close to Jiang Jing and talked so much. It was also the first time that I heard about Jiang Jingshi's kindness to Xiaoyi, not from Cheng Yue or Aunt Lin, but I saw with my own eyes how Xiaoyi and Jiang Jingshi got along. Xiaoyi was so happy that Jiang Jingshi was there all night, and the smile on his face never faded. It seems that Xiaoyi really likes him. At this time, Cheng Yue came out of the bathroom and walked towards Xiao. Jiang Jingshi left. Cheng Yue sat down next to Xiao, took the cup that Xiao had just drunk from and filled herself with most of the water, then put the cup on the coffee table with a bang. Seeing that she looked unhappy, Xiao asked, "What's wrong? Did anyone offend you?" Cheng Yue said angrily, "Yao, you couldn't find a job before. I thought it was strange, so I asked someone about it. Someone contacted me just now. My feeling was right. Qin Mingzhou told all the fashion design companies and studios not to hire you. Damn it, is he trying to force you to death? After so many years, he still wants to get you. A grown man has a heart smaller than an asshole. It's really a waste of his face." Xiao was so angry that she punched the armrest of the sofa. This bastard. Xiao really didn't expect that this was Qin Mingzhou's doing. Gnashing teeth in anger. But there's no point getting angry. She couldn't do anything to Qin Mingzhou. "Yao, it seems that it is difficult for you to find a job as a designer at the moment. How about this? One of my clients has a private piano teacher for her daughter who resigned, and now she is in a hurry to find someone else. Why don't you give it a try? The salary is pretty good. As for the job of a designer, let's look for it slowly. There will always be a company that Qin Mingzhou can't reach." Xiao subconsciously looked at her hands. "I haven't touched the piano for 6 years. Is this okay?" After 6 years in prison, Xiao is no longer the innocent, well-protected young lady. As she grew up, she became less confident about everything. "Of course you can. My dear Miss Shi, you have been learning piano since you were a child, and you have won numerous awards and obtained various certificates. You are professional. If you had not insisted on choosing design as your major, I would have thought that you would be a pianist. It is a waste of your talent to be a piano teacher for a child, okay?" Xiao was born into a wealthy family and was nurtured with various interests since childhood. She was not interested in anything else but playing the piano. She started learning to play the piano at the age of 4. The teacher her family hired was also a famous pianist. She was also quite talented and played the piano very well. If she hadn't ended up falling in love with design, she might have actually become a pianist. When she was married to Qin Mingzhou and became a full-time housewife, her only pastime was playing the piano. If she hadn't been in jail, she would have definitely continued to play. Although she hasn't played the piano for 6 years, she still remembers everything about it, and her 10 fingers have already formed muscle memory, so she should have no problem teaching others. "Okay, then. Let's do as you say." Xiao successfully interviewed for a private piano teacher. Although she was a little unfamiliar with the piano at first, she was a professional after all. After a week, she had recovered to 80% of her previous level, and the employer was very satisfied with her. At the same time, she has been looking for a job as a designer, but unfortunately she has not found a suitable one. That day, Xiao finished class at the previous time. When she was about to reach the gate of the villa, the student's mother, Ms. Zhang, caught up with her and stopped her. "Teacher Shi, wait a moment." Xiao stopped and said, "Ms. Zhang, is there anything else?" Ms. Zhang is nearly 40 years old and has a kind face. In her own super luxurious villa, the home clothes she wears casually are all expensive brand names. She smiled and said, "Teacher Shi, this is what happened. My husband's friend is having a wedding in 2 days. The pianist we originally arranged cannot come due to something, and we can't find a suitable one at the last minute. I saw that you play well, so I plan to introduce you to the pianist. The salary for that night will definitely satisfy you. What do you think?" Of course Xiao would not refuse such a good thing and agreed to it on the spot. Chapter 17. He was very satisfied with her body. The newlyweds were both well-known and wealthy people in the imperial capital, and the wedding was held in a 5-star hotel owned by the groom's group. The luxurious and elegant decoration at the wedding scene was very romantic. Xiao was wearing a decent dress and delicate makeup. She was playing Warm Festival and Concerto of Love and other songs suitable for weddings in a corner of the stage. The wonderful music added a touch of elegance and comfort to the scene. Those who came to the wedding were either rich or noble. Men and women all wore designer dresses and drank to each other. Among them were some faces that Xiao was familiar with. Among these people, some are close friends with her father, some are her father's business friends, and some flatter her father every day. But these are all in the past. When the Shi family fell into trouble, none of them offered a helping hand. The world is fickle and there are too many people like this in society. Seeing them again after so many years, Xiao was still in a peaceful mood. Only the arrival of a male and female guest made her heart tremble, and her flying fingers played a wrong note, but fortunately no one noticed. Qin Mingzhou was wearing a well-fitting tailor-made dark blue suit, and his perfectly handsome face looked as if it had been carved by a knife under the light. Qin Mingzhou, who came in with his arm around his, was wearing a pink tight dress and 12-centimeter high heels. She had fair skin and beautiful looks. The two of them walked slowly into the wedding scene, looking perfectly matched. One was a rising star in the business world, and the other was the only daughter of the chairman of Xinyang Group. After they came in, they were surrounded by the crowd, and one after another greeted them. Qin Mingzhou was chatting with people with ease, while Qin Mingzhou beside him was smiling like a flower. Xiao's beautiful watery eyes dropped coldly, and her fingers pressed on the piano keys with a little more force. At this moment, Qin Mingzhou, who was much taller than others, suddenly looked at her. The four of them looked at each other across the crowd. Xiao's heart was in turmoil and she played another wrong note. She was very angry. In order to avoid making mistakes again, she gave Qin Mingzhou a stern look, then lowered her head to look at the keyboard and concentrate on her work. She felt that Qin Mingzhou's burning gaze on her lasted for a long time before it moved away. After playing one song, the next song was their wedding march during the wedding ceremony. Xiao went to the restroom and planned to rest in the lounge, but was stopped in the corridor halfway. Xiao, I didn't expect that the person playing the piano on the stage was really you. Jiang Zixin, dressed in jewels and precious stones, brought a few of her good sisters who were also daughters of a certain boss to block Xiao's way. Xiao had to stop and said, "So what if it's me? A good dog doesn't block the road. Get out of the way." If it were 6 or 7 years ago, Jiang Zixin would have jumped up and bit Xiao out of anger. After a few years, the eldest daughter of the Jiang family had obviously matured a little and did not get angry immediately. I thought you would rot to death in prison, but I didn't expect to see you in my lifetime. Jiang Zixin had a smile on his face, an excited smile that was like kicking a drowning dog. The Shi family and the Jiang family used to be rivals in the business world. Xiao and the Jiang family's eldest daughter, Jiang Zixin, are about the same age and go to the same school, so they are often compared. Xiao is prettier than Jiang Zixin and her academic performance is also better than Jiang Zixin's, which made Jiang Zixin jealous since childhood, and the two have never gotten along. It would be strange if Jiang Zixin didn't come to step on Xiao now. Xiao was already mentally prepared when she saw Jiang Zixin at the wedding scene just now. I'm really sorry to disappoint you. Not only am I out of prison, I'm living a good life. The young sisters around Jiang Zixin spoke one after another. Wearing all those cheap clothes, is this what you call living a good life? I don't know what kind of cheap perfume they sprayed, it stinks. Why would they even invite such a person? A young lady covered her nose with a look of disgust. There's nothing we can do. The Shi group went bankrupt a few years ago and owed a lot of debts. Her father committed suicide by jumping off a building, and she herself was in jail. She should have just been released from prison not long ago. She must be as poor as a dog. What else can she wear except cheap goods? Xiao's face darkened. These people's words are really rude. Jiang Zixin smiled even more proudly, feeling that he had finally defeated Xiao. Xiao, it seems that you are in great need of money. You even take jobs like playing the piano. Although you have been in prison, you are still quite pretty. Since we have known each other for so many years, would you like me to introduce you to some rich men? Although they are a little perverted in bed, they are quite willing to pay you if you serve me well. Jiang Zixin's sisters all laughed. That's feasible. She looks so sexy, she must like those tricks used by rich men in bed. She might be addicted to them and can't stop. Xiao clenched her fists, but showed a smile without any trace of laughter on her face, which made people feel a little scalp tingling. You know it so well. It seems you have played with them many times. Xiao's eyes fell on the woman who said she smelled bad, and she quickly replied, also, I didn't wear any perfume. I think I smell bad because of the aftereffects of your nose surgery. With your nose so pointy, don't you think you look like a snake demon when you look in the mirror? I am poor now, but every minute I earn is earned by my own ability. What about you? You are a bunch of parasites who only know how to ask your family for money. What qualifications do you have to criticize me? Jiang Zixin and her sisters all looked unhappy after hearing what was said. Xiao, stop talking nonsense. Don't you understand your current status? Believe it or not, if I want to, I can make you unable to survive in the imperial capital in a matter of minutes. Xiao smiled even more. I've been in prison for 6 years, and I'm still afraid of you? But you? Xiao moved closer to Jiang Zixin, her eyes darkening. Jiang Zixin, we have accumulated a lot of grudges since we were young, and now I have nothing. A barefoot person is not afraid of wearing shoes. If you make me angry, I can do anything. After all, Jiang Zixin was a young lady who had been spoiled since childhood. She had never seen such a terrifying look in Xiao's eyes. She was so scared that she took several steps back, her mind going blank. Just then, someone called her name not far away. She couldn't think of a better way to deal with Xiao, so she took her sisters and left. Xiao leaned against the wall, staring at the blank space with gloomy eyes. After a while, she stood up and wanted to leave. When she turned around, she saw Qin Mingzhou not far away. She froze. When did this dog man come? It seems that you are really different from before. Qin Mingzhou said with a handsome face without any expression. It seemed that he heard everything she and Jiang Zixin said. After all I've been through, if I'm still as stupid as before, there's really no cure. Xiao was in a very bad mood. She didn't want to argue with Qin Mingzhou anymore, so she left quickly. As he passed Qin Mingzhou, he grabbed her wrist. All of Xiao's suppressed anger suddenly erupted. Go away. The other hand she was about to use to hit the man's handsome face was also tightly grasped by him. With a strong push, she was pressed heavily against the wall by him, causing pain in her back. The power gap between men and women was too great. Xiao, who was nearly 1.7 meters tall, looked petite in front of Qin Mingzhou and was suppressed to the point of being unable to move. Xiao roared, Qin Mingzhou, what do you want to do now, you bastard? Qin Mingzhou bent down and licked and kissed her earlobe. His eyes were like a volcano about to erupt, with the hot magma rising and falling under the suppression. Xiao, I'm quite satisfied with your body. Please name a price. Chapter 18 Don't refuse a toast and drink a penalty. Xiao understood too well what Qin Mingzhou's look meant. He really wanted to sleep with her. Xiao's anger surged up to her head, and she whispered angrily, you cut off my job opportunities, so you want me to strip naked and fuck you for survival and money. Qin Mingzhou, can you please have some shame? You can think so. Xiao, you should blame yourself for this. It was you who always seduced me before, and that's why I became addicted to your body. Fart. Apart from wearing sexy lingerie on their wedding night because she was afraid he wouldn't touch her, when had she ever seduced him? Qin Mingzhou seemed not to hear her scolding and continued, if you agree, you won't have to show up in public like you do now. I can guarantee that your quality of life will be the same as when you were the eldest daughter of the Shi family. Qin Mingzhou leaned down and moved closer to Xiao, their breaths intertwined and their noses and lips touched. Xiao turned her head suddenly, and Qin Mingzhou's hot lips brushed across her delicate and fair cheek. Despite the ambiguous posture, the atmosphere was cold. He continued to tempt her. In fact, compared to our previous life, this kind of life is just missing a marriage certificate. How about it, do you want to make this deal? How could it be just a matter of missing a marriage certificate? Now, Qin Mingzhou is about to become the son-in-law of the chairman of Xinyang Group. If she agreed to him, she would be a third party who was not allowed to be seen in public. How could this bastard say such a thing? Xiao really wanted to slap the man in front of her again, but unfortunately her hands were pressed down tightly. Although Xiao was extremely angry, she was no longer the girl whose every joy and anger were revealed on her face. Her rosy lips curled up slightly, revealing a gorgeous smile. You can ask me to agree to give you half of your property. Qin Mingzhou looked sarcastic as if he had heard some huge joke. Do you think you're worth that much money? You don't want to, right? Then get out of here. Xiao struggled violently again, but Qin Mingzhou used just a little more strength and she was unable to move again. Xiao, don't refuse my toast and then drink a forfeit. He began to get impatient. Xiao's beautiful eyes widened in anger. If you don't let me go, I will scream molest. You don't want Mission to see this, do you? Yaoyao. A deep male voice broke the cold atmosphere. A young man was standing not far away. The man was dressed in a suit and had a slender figure. His tall and straight nose firmly supported the gold-rimmed glasses he wore. His hair was meticulously gelled with hairspray. His facial features were very handsome and he looked very dignified. Just from his appearance, one could tell that he was a smart and capable elite in the business world. Brother Hanlon. Xiao couldn't believe it. She met so many old friends in such a short time. Xiao Hanlon took a few steps towards the two of them with his slender legs. It's me. After saying that, he looked at Qin Mingzhou with a gloomy look in his eyes. Boss Qin, Mingzhou is looking for you everywhere. I believe you will find here soon. Qin Mingzhou finally let go of Xiao and said coldly, Boss Xiao, you came at a really bad time. Xiao Hanlon adjusted his glasses and replied expressionlessly, really? I think I came just in time. The two men of similar height faced each other coldly. Compared with the cold atmosphere before, there was now a hint of gunpowder. There was a sound of someone talking not far away, and I could vaguely hear that it was Qin Mingzhou who was speaking. Obviously, Miss Qin really came over. Qin Mingzhou had no intention of staying here any longer. When he left, his face was covered with a thick layer of frost, and he reminded Xiao in a deep voice. The wedding is about to begin. As one of the performers, I hope you won't be late. After Qin Mingzhou left, the voices talking not far away also disappeared, and the corridor was so quiet that you could hear a pin drop. Xiao Hanlon stared at Xiao intently. His eyes were as sharp as an X-ray machine, as if he wanted to see through all the changes in Xiao over the years. Xiao felt a little uncomfortable being looked at by him, and took the initiative to say, Brother Hanlon, it seems that you have lived well these years. Xiao Hanlon stared at Xiao without blinking. Not bad. Back then, Xiao Hanlon was Xi Mingyi's most capable subordinate and also the most ideal son-in-law in Xi Mingyi's mind. While Xi Mingyi was cultivating Xiao Hanlon with all his heart, he also kept creating opportunities for Xiao and Xiao Hanlon to be alone together. Xiao, who was still in her third year of high school, was simple-minded and had no idea what her father was thinking. She just treated Xiao Hanlon as an older brother, and the two of them had happy days together. But in Xiao Hanlon's eyes it is love, while in Xiao's eyes it is family affection. Later, Xiao Hanlon confessed his love to Xiao but was rejected. After Xiao insisted on marrying Qin Mingzhou, the two contacted each other less and less. Later, Xiao Hanlon resigned from Xi Group and the two completely lost contact. Come to think of it, we haven't seen each other for 7 or 8 years, Yaoyao, you don't look like you've changed much. Xiao Hanlon said. These 7 or 8 years were the most turbulent and difficult days for Xiao. Apart from her hatred for Qin Mingzhou, in fact, people who had passed by did not leave many traces in Xiao's heart. Apart from being surprised, Xiao didn't have any other feelings when she saw Xiao Hanlon again. Really? I think I've changed a lot. At this time, a wedding staff member came running over and said to Xiao anxiously, so you're here. I've been looking for you for quite some time. The wedding is about to start. Hurry back to the stage and get ready. Oh, okay. I'll be there right away. Xiao said hello to Xiao Hanlon. Brother Hanlon, I'll be busy now. Well, you go ahead. Xiao and the staff hurriedly strode towards the wedding hall. Xiao Hanlon stared at her thin back for a long time without moving. After a while, he raised his hand and placed it on his heart, smiled mockingly, and murmured in a low voice, why can't you forget her? This is not good, it's really not good. Xiao was playing on the stage and no one dared to go on stage to disturb her. The bride held her father's hand and walked along the red carpet to the wedding march played by Xiao, step by step towards her groom, with a happy smile on her face. Xiao thought of her wedding with Qin Mingzhou that year. At that time, Xi Mingyi did not approve of this marriage. He probably felt that having a son-in-law like Qin Mingzhou, who was poor and had no background, would bring shame to him, so he did not invite anyone to attend his daughter's wedding. Although there were few guests attending the wedding steps were not reduced. When she was holding the bouquet in her hand and walking towards Qin Mingzhou holding her father's hand, Xiao really felt that she was the happiest person in the world. Thinking back on that feeling of happiness now, her heart still felt warm. Xiao's 10 fingers danced familiarly on the piano keys, and her eyes involuntarily looked at Qin Mingzhou in the guest seats. At this time, almost everyone's eyes were on the newlyweds, except Qin Mingzhou. He was also staring at Yaoyao, and their eyes met. Yaoyao guessed that Qin Mingzhou should also be thinking about his wedding with her. The wedding that she was forced to hold and was not blessed by anyone. The wedding of this wealthy marriage went very smoothly. At around 10 o'clock in the evening, all the guests had left, but Yaoyao was still waiting in their hall. The person in charge of the wedding came over quickly to pay her for the evening, and said that she played the piano well, and he was very satisfied, and then gave her a big red envelope. When Yaoyao walked out of the hotel door, she opened the red envelope, took out the money inside and counted it. $666. Extra income, nice. The autumn wind was a little chilly at night. Yaoyao put the red envelope back into her bag, then wrapped her thin coat tighter around her. She went to the street and was about to call a taxi when a Bentley luxury car worth over 10 million yuan stopped steadily in front of her. The driver quickly got out of the car and came around to help Yaoyao open the back door. There was already a man sitting in the back seat. The man looked to be in his early 30s, with fair skin, short black hair, and a handsome face that had both the elegance of an Asian and the depth and three-dimensionality of a Westerner. It is not difficult to tell from his pair of light blue eyes and tall nose that he is a mixed race. He is also an extremely handsome Chinese and Western mixed race guy. Yaoyao was a little surprised. Mr. Feng, why are you here? Chapter 19, Damn, I'm old and ugly. Feng Zia looked at Yaoyao outside the car door. His deep light blue eyes carried a deep and melancholy temperament, which made people's heart move easily when he looked at the opposite sex. He replied calmly, I just happened to be passing by. Get in the car and I'll take you home. I just happen to have something to tell you. After Yaoyao got in the car, the luxury car started moving quickly. Feng Zia smelled faintly of alcohol. Yaoyao guessed that he must have been having a drinking party nearby, and he passed by and parked his car just in time to see her after the party. Sitting with him in the small space, Yaoyao actually felt a little restrained. Although she knew Feng Zia when she was a child and they got along well, they were both too young at that time, both less than 10 years old, and now they are strangers. Mr. Feng, do you have something to tell me? Feng Zia looked a little tired. He rubbed his brows and said, My mother returned home the day before yesterday. She wants to see you. I haven't seen you for so many years. I really want to meet Aunt Lian. I heard you say that she is receiving treatment abroad. I hope she is in good health. Feng Zia's mother is Yaoyao's mother's best friend and is very kind to Yaoyao. When Yaoyao was a child, she always called her Aunt Lian. After so many years, she really wants to meet this elder. Her health is sometimes good and sometimes bad, and she is now in the hospital. I'll have someone pick you up tomorrow afternoon, is that okay? Okay. What Yaoyao didn't know was that when she got into Feng Zia's car, she was seen by Qin Mingzhou and Qin Mingzhou, who were leaving in the car. Mingzhou, isn't that your ex-wife Yaoyao? The car she drives costs at least 8 million. Qin Mingzhou snorted disdainfully. Your ex-wife is pretty good. It hasn't been long since she was released from prison, and she's hooked up with such a rich man. Have you investigated her? Qin Mingzhou's handsome and extremely cold face did not change much until the luxury car that Yaoyao was riding in drove away, and then his pair of peach blossom eyes narrowed slightly. Qin Mingzhou felt that Qin Mingzhou was in a bad mood tonight. Miss Qin was also feeling unhappy tonight. She pouted her bright red lips and admitted it with her neck stiffened. Yes, I investigated her. A woman who looks like a slut and has bad intentions appears next to you. What's wrong with me investigating her? Besides, it's not just me who investigated her. Dad investigated her too. Qin Mingzhou's eyebrows twitched slightly. How do you know that Mr. Qin investigated her? I found out when I accidentally overheard the conversation between my father and Uncle Shan. Qin Mingzhou replied honestly. Oh? What did Mr. Qin and the others say? Qin Mingzhou rarely saw Qin Mingzhou, who was always cold to everyone, take the initiative to ask, and answered very actively, I only heard Uncle Shan report to Dad about that bitch, why she was able to be released from prison early. After they saw me coming, they stopped talking about it. Mingzhou, you seem to be quite interested in your ex-wife. You are not planning to get back together with her, are you? Speaking of this, Qin Mingzhou feels even more unhappy. Even though Qin Mingzhou was divorced and had a daughter, she, as the eldest daughter of the Qin family, still wanted to marry him, which showed how much she liked him. Qin Mingzhou sneered lightly with a hint of contempt. I initiated the divorce, and I sent her to prison myself. I didn't want her when she was young and beautiful. Now she is nearly 30 years old and ugly. Why do you think I want such an old woman? Qin Mingzhou, who is several years younger than Yaoyao, was immediately relieved. I knew you didn't like her. She is so beautiful and has a good background. Compared with that bitch, Qin Mingzhou would choose her even if he was blind. But even if that bitch didn't have the strength to compete with her for Mingzhou, she would have to pay the price for those 2 slaps she gave her. The next afternoon, Xiao took the car arranged by Feng Xiao to the private hospital where his mother was, and bought a bouquet of flowers and fruits on the way. When she arrived at the ward, Feng Xiao was also there. Compared to yesterday, he was dressed more formally today, but his deep, 3-dimensional handsome face no longer showed any trace of fatigue from last night. He said to the middle-aged woman lying on the bed with a sick face, "Mom, this is Miss Shi." "Where is it? Let me see." After the nurse took the fruit and bouquet from Xiao's hand, she came to the bedside and said to the middle-aged woman on the bed, "Auntie Lian, I'm here." "Xiaoyao, you've grown so big now. Come closer and let Aunt Lian take a good look at you." Although the middle-aged woman had a bad complexion due to her illness, her facial features were extremely beautiful and she looked very kind. Compared to that year, she has become a lot older, but her facial features are still the same. This made Xiao feel somewhat familiar, and she silently lamented that time passed too quickly. Xiao walked closer and smiled even brighter. "Aunt Lian, I haven't seen you for many years, and you are still so beautiful. I'm getting old. I never thought that the little girl back then would grow up to be so beautiful. She looks so much like your mother when she was young." Aunt Lian Xiao was very excited. She was helped to sit up by Feng Xiao. Feng Xiao also held Xiao's hand and kept looking at her. "My child, I have heard everything Xiao has told you about your situation. No matter how difficult and painful it was before, it is all in the past. What is important is the future. When I was in the most difficult time, your mother and father took us in, which was equivalent to saving our lives. In the future, if you have any difficulties, you must tell Xiao and let him help you solve them, understand?" From now on, Xiao doesn't plan to bother Feng Xiao to help her with anything unless she has to. But the fact that Aunt Lian said this proves that she really cares about her. Xiao, who had seen too much of the fickleness of the world, suddenly felt warm in her heart. "Aunt Lian, Mr. Feng has helped me. It is Mr. Feng's credit that I was able to be released early this time. Otherwise, I would not be able to reunite with my son. Thank you so much." Feng Xiao looked like a filial son. He was silently peeling fruit for his mother. Aunt Lian smiled and said, "Why do you still call Mr. Feng so distant? Back then, your parents and I arranged a marriage for you and Xiao, but unfortunately something happened later and we lost contact with each other." Aunt Lian obviously didn't want to recall the bad things that happened in the past. The smile on her face faded and she didn't continue talking about this topic. "Anyway, Xiaoyao, you don't have to be so polite with us. Your mother and I had a better relationship than sisters back then. Just treat me as your aunt. I am an old lady lying in the ward all day, and no one visits me except Xiao. Can you come and visit Aunt Lian more often when you have time?" "Okay." Feng Xiao was a busy man. He was halfway through peeling the fruit when a phone call came in. He greeted the caller and went back to their company. Although Aunt Lian was in poor health, she had a good personality and was an optimistic person. She talked a lot and chatted with Xiao for the entire afternoon. Xiao said goodbye and left only when it was time to pick up Xiaoyi from school. Aunt Lian reluctantly said, "Time flies by so fast. Xiaoyao, next time you come, bring your son to let Aunt Lian take a look if it's convenient." Xiao did not refuse. After she left the hospital, she took a taxi to Xiaoyi's school. From a distance, I saw Qin Mian being led by the nanny into the luxury car. Although the little girl was the most beautiful girl in the crowd and was wearing the most expensive princess dress, there was no smile on her tender face. In fact, if you look closely, Mian does look a bit like Qin Mingzhou. How could such a beautiful and lovely child suffer from autism? It's so pitiful. How did Qin Mingzhou raise his daughter? "Mommy, what are you looking at?" Xiaoyi came over at some point and looked in the direction of Xiao, and also saw the scene of Mian getting into the car. Xiao retracted her gaze, took Xiaoyi's hand and said, "It's nothing, come on, son, let's go home." After getting in the car, Xiaoyi and Xiao sat in the back seat together. He swung his two tender white feet and told Xiao about the interesting things that happened at school today. Finally, he mentioned Qin Mingzhou. Mommy, isn't Qin Mingzhou autistic? She usually doesn't talk, but today she spoke on her own initiative for the first time ever, and she spoke to me. Really? Xiao was a little surprised. Then what did she say to you? Chapter 20. Something happened. Xiao Yi replied in a baby voice, classmate Qin Mingzhou is asking about you, mommy. Xiao was slightly startled. She asked me what to do. She said she wanted to see you. She's really weird. She also called you mommy. I told her you're not her mommy, but my mommy, but she didn't believe it, and then we had a fight, and she ended up crying. Xiao Yi seemed a little guilty when he said this. He blinked his big eyes and looked at Xiao carefully, trying to see from her expression whether she was angry. Xiao was not angry. But when she thought about a cute and beautiful little girl like Mian having a mental illness, she couldn't bear to hate a child even if she was born by Qin Mingzhou's affair with another woman. Instead, I felt that the little girl was quite pitiful. Xiao Yi, classmate Mian is different from other normal children. She is a girl. As a boy, you should give in to her on weekdays. Do you understand? Xiaoyi pouted her lips and nodded obediently. I know. In fact, after she started crying, I regretted arguing with her. I even tried to comfort her, but it was a pity that it didn't work. Speaking of this, Xiaoyi felt a little depressed. He is so cute and smart, and usually he can make people laugh if he tries hard to please them. But today he hit a wall in Mian. Xiao sensed her son's emotions and took Xiao Yi's hand and patted it gently. It's okay. Crying is a way to vent. It might help her condition. You were right to comfort her later. Whether it works or not is not your problem. After knowing that Mian had autism, Xiao somehow went online to search for information about childhood autism. She remembered a passage that said that one is not to be afraid of an autistic child if he cries or makes a fuss, but to be afraid if he has no reaction at all to what is happening in the outside world. It's not a bad thing for people like Mian that she can cry. Mommy, you're right. Mian kept crying and holding on to me. Later, her attending doctor came over. He said that her ability to cry loudly was a sign of progress. Xiao suddenly thought of a question, but her heart skipped a beat. She asked anxiously, has classmate Mian's father come? Xiaoyi felt tired from sitting with his little body straight, so he hugged his mother's slender arms, leaned his round little head on them, and continued to answer in a baby voice. The teacher informed him of Mian's condition. He was going to come, but after Mian was comforted by her doctor, she asked the teacher for leave and left school. He didn't come later. Xiao heaved a sigh of relief when she learned that Xiaoyi and Qin Mingzhou did not meet. Thinking about it again, although Xiaoyi skipped a grade and was not in the same class as Qin Mingzhou, they were in the same school after all. It would be bad if he met Qin Mingzhou. It seems that I have to help Xiaoyi change schools. Because she was too afraid that Xiaoyi and Qin Mingzhou would run into each other, Xiao called Cheng Yuwei and told her about this after returning home. Cheng Yuwei strongly agreed to change Xiaoyi's school. If you hadn't mentioned this, I really wouldn't have noticed this. Xiaoyi and that bastard Qin Mingzhou look quite alike. If they really bump into each other, anyone would think that Xiaoyi is his child. It's right for him to change schools. But you should talk to Jiang Jingshi about this. He was the one who arranged for Xiaoyi to enter this school. Cheng Yuwei hadn't gotten off work yet, and Xiao could vaguely hear some noise coming from her end through the phone. Okay. Tomorrow is the weekend. Xiaoyi and Mr. Jiang have an appointment to go to the boxing gym. I'll talk to him then. Jiang Jingshi has time to accompany Xiaoyi to the boxing gym again. Xiaoyi must be very happy. When Xiao mentioned this, she was a little helpless. Yeah, he was just talking about this. He also asked me to go with him tomorrow. Cheng Yuwei chuckled. This little guy really likes his uncle Jiang, but it's no wonder. I've been watching him for the past few years. Wang Jingshi is really good to Xiaoyi. If you don't know him, you would think he is Xiaoyi's biological father. Even though it was just a private conversation between best friends on the phone, Xiao felt that Cheng Yuwei's joke was too much. I quickly reminded her, Yuwei, don't say such things carelessly. I don't mind it, but it would be bad if Mr. Jiang heard it. Cheng Yuwei didn't care, and said meaningfully, really? I don't think Jiang Jingshi would mind. By the way, about your work. A snapping sound, like a crisp slap, suddenly interrupted Cheng Yuewei's voice. Then, a woman's furious curse came from Cheng Yuewei's end. Cheng Yuewei, you bitch, I'm going to beat you to death. Toot, toot, toot. Yuewei, what's wrong? Yuewei. The communication with Cheng Yuewei was suddenly interrupted. Xiao called Cheng Yuewei's number again, but the phone was turned off. Something must have happened on Cheng Yuewei's end. Xiao became anxious, so she took a coat and put it on while walking out of the room. It is around 8 o'clock in the evening, not long after dinner, and Aunt Lin is cleaning the living room. Xiao, Aunt Lin, I have to go out for something. After Xiaoi finishes his homework, please take care of him and take a bath and go to bed. Aunt Lin stopped what she was doing and, seeing how anxious Xiao was, she said, okay, go ahead and do your thing. Today is the 10th anniversary of the Douyu live streaming platform. A grand ceremony was held in the evening, and the most popular anchors on the platform were invited to participate. In recent years, Douyu live broadcast has been very popular, so the 10th anniversary was celebrated with great fanfare, and the scene was not inferior to some official TV ceremonies. Cheng Yuewei has a good reputation in the makeup industry. A popular female anchor on a Douyu platform specially invited her to do her makeup. Cheng Yuewei is now backstage at the ceremony. When Xiao took a taxi to the venue of Douyu's 10th anniversary ceremony, the ceremony had not officially begun yet. The queue for admission was very long, and there were many reporters taking pictures, so the scene outside was already very lively. Xiao found another VIP entrance where there were very few people. As she expected, she was stopped by the staff. Xiao is no longer the Miss She of 6 years ago. She understands the grassroots staff very well and stands there to cooperate with them in their work while explaining. It's okay if I don't go in. But I have a friend who works there. I can't get through to her on her phone. Something must have happened to her. She's a makeup artist named Cheng Yuewei. Please go and check it out. Staff, miss, please don't spread rumors. Our ceremony went well and no one got hurt. Xiao felt very uneasy when she thought about her last call with Cheng Yuewei. She must see Cheng Yuewei tonight before she can feel at ease. But no matter what she said, the staff refused to verify the situation or let her in. Just when she was at a loss, a strange voice full of questions sounded behind her. Xiao. Xiao turned around and saw the owner of the voice at first sight, her college classmate Lu Shulan. The second thing he saw was Qin Mingzhou standing tall and straight next to Lu Shulan.